Chapter 421, Luo Feng? A massive creature, its body sprawled across a source world like an ant on a jewel, extended hundreds of slender appendages, and delicately channeled a wisp of its power into the world below. It dared not stir too much. Too much commotion would kill the countless lives inside. Instead, it engineered catastrophe after catastrophe, meticulously harvesting the fear emitted by those beings. These source world beings, weak, yes, but with astonishing intelligence and intense emotions, it thought as it fed the fear into its life core. The last invasion between the Cultivator camp and the Heavenly Origin camp had been brutal, centered on devouring source world origins. The many beings inside a source world were only partly valued. Mo Gus, for instance, had consumed the souls of over 6 million source world beings. In wartime, utilization efficiency was low, but for world clusters inside their own territory, every single source world was exploited to the limit. Emotions, desires, flesh, souls, every aspect was a resource. The source world origin, though, remained the most precious thing and was handled with extreme care. No, I can't resist at all. I can create universes, and yet I am helpless against these calamities, the creature thought, helpless and enraged. It divided the source world's interior into regions and induced disasters in one after another, consuming the resulting fear in waves. After a cycle, the first consumed regions would continually nurture new life, perpetually feeding it. With my contribution, I can enjoy these source world beings for 100,000 epochs, but I must never touch the origin. This world-level Hunyuan knew the rules well. Origins belonged to the highest world-level Hunyuan and even some progenitors. Then, unexpectedly, a black-clad man appeared out of nowhere. The creature froze. Deep-seated dread rose inside it. "Cultivator Lord," it whispered. As a core member of its race, it had been taught to fear the 8 Cultivator Lords. One ripple of intent swept over the world-level Hunyuan, and its life force was severed, gone in an instant. Its body and life core remained physically intact, but there was no trace of life. The figure was Luo Feng's clone. Even though this clone held only 1/10,000th of his reserves, it was enough to strike and kill a world-level Hunyuan. If it had been his main combat clone, a single glance would have annihilated every world-level Hunyuan here. Luo Feng collected the corpse with a casual wave. At his realm of power, a thought could open space to store countless corpses. With effort, he could create entire worlds. The billions of worlds in the Cultivator camp, far more numerous than source worlds, had been created by lords whose Tao had become the origin of worlds. But the life nurtured in those worlds was far weaker than life from source worlds. Luo Feng descended into the source world with a weakened avatar, deliberately allowing himself to be suppressed by the source world's rules. His physical strength was capped at the upper limit of the Chaos realm. If he resisted the source world's suppression, the clash could produce an energy storm that would wipe out all life within. The world-level Hunyuan and others, when facing an ownerless source world, might also act forcibly or slowly siphon the origin. Inside the source world, Luo Feng's Chaos Realm avatar stood in a void and surveyed the scattered universes. The interior had been intentionally sabotaged. There was no singular origin continent anymore. The core had shattered long ago, spawning over 1 million primordial universes. Energy had been dispersed so thoroughly that countless primordial universes were born, but their inhabitants were all weak, the strongest reaching only the eternal true God level, and those who reached it would soon face a death tribulation. 1 million primordial universes, every being in them is food for the skyborn mixed source, Luo Feng observed coldly. He summoned a white-haired woman who appeared by his side, watching him with wary eyes. "Who are you? Are you here to kill me?" she asked. She knew the pattern. After taking the final step to ascend, a death tribulation would soon follow. Even if she died, she wanted to know the truth. Luo Feng regarded her with admiration. "You're excellent," he said. She remained cautious, an instinct honed by hardship. She had climbed up from weakness and seen countless horrors. Surprises often concealed deeper terrors. Luo Feng saw everything about her in one glance. Her past, her pain, the way she had severed her own soul 3 times. This was Yi Xu, the main body of that name. Her self-fashioned, soul-severing cultivation method had made her soul and will comparable in potential to a god king's, even while she was still an eternal true god. Her extreme agony and despair had produced emotions strong enough to have been harvested by things like the abyss of destruction. "You've cut your soul 3 times?" she murmured, frowning at his instant understanding. "This source world sits in the heavenly origin camp's territory. I cannot protect it forever," Luo Feng said. He shifted his thoughts subtly, and an invisible wave reached her. "You are exceptional. I will take you away, and I can save the inhabitants of one universe for you." His clone's weak space could only reliably carry the beings of a single primordial universe. Under the influence of his words and the convincing wave of his presence, Ishu trusted him and quickly chose a universe, taking some friends with her. Luo Feng's Chaos Realm avatar performed a secret technique, world-breaking teleportation, and shifted the inhabitants of that universe into a pocket within his clone's sleeve. The space could hold an ordinary world's worth of life. "Let's go," Luo Feng said, and they departed. Ishu watched, astonished, as the sleeve contained an entire primordial universe, and then saw them traverse innumerable space-time distances at unimaginable speed. A flood of information poured into her mind, details of the cultivator camp, the other camps, the wider situation. Isu understood the gravity of things. "Your soul and will have great potential. Will you accept becoming my registered disciple, Luo Feng?" he asked. "I accept," Isu said eagerly. Luo Feng nodded. All 3,916 of his active clones were in motion now, each moving at different speeds. The intense emotions being absorbed by the Destruction Mountain signaled individuals with powerful souls. Many promising juniors had already died, but their surviving kin still struggled on. Luo Feng estimated this operation could net him over 100 registered disciples. Then, he noticed a winding great snake coiled against the source world, an infinite great snake slowly siphoning the origin. Its absorption had already ruined the world's interior. The serpent saw the black-clad figure approaching and recognized him. "Too late," Luo Feng muttered. His avatar had formed less than a day ago, and he had been a step slow. "Lord Luo Feng?" The great snake stammered and bowed with trembling respect. Even as a high member of the Heavenly Origin Camp's infinite race, it dared not provoke a cultivator lord. Nearby space-time solidified. Life auras were locked. The great snake sensed it could not even teleport home. "Lord Luo Feng, I am of the infinite race," it began. A ripple cut through. The world-level Hunyuan infinite great snake's eyes dimmed, and its life force was severed. On the other side of twisted space-time, a furious voice erupted. "Who dares kill my kin?" Twisting space-time fluctuated as a colossal figure within the infinite world prepared to intervene. Luo Feng looked across the stretch of space, expression unreadable. "It's me," he said. The colossal figure paused, recognizing the name and the black-clad silhouette. Luo Feng, only recently promoted to lord, had struck 3 times and severely wounded Kafu Shu, who ranked among the top 10. His power could suppress any progenitor of the Heavenly Origin Camp. His growth had been terrifyingly rapid. "Luo Feng, what happened? Why did you kill one of my infinite race?" The colossal figure asked, tone suddenly far more restrained. Luo Feng's mood was already sour at being a step late, and the rude questions irritated him. He returned no explanation. The twisted space-time relaxed, and the colossal figure dared not press further. "Scum," Luo Feng muttered, his eyes cold. Among the Heavenly Origin Camp, only 5 were undying. The others, 100+ progenitors, were all mortal and could die. "My heart of destruction still isn't strong enough," he thought to himself, a dark worry lingering as he moved on. Chapter 420, Finding the Heart. A brilliant divine light filled a vast region, warping space-time into a colossal maze of folded dimensions. At the center of that radiance loomed a massive 8-hoofed figure with 16 eyes. Each iridescent eye surveyed countless layers of space-time. This was Bavayu, one of the limitless primal space's top 30 powers. "Who killed my kin?" Bavayu sensed the death and flared with anger. For any race, a world-level Hunyuan was a core asset, someone on the progenitor's list of key individuals. Bavayu focused his void mastery and traced the sensation to its source. He saw where his kin had fallen. Standing there was a black-clad, black-haired man. Bavayu's heart trembled. "Luo Feng?" he muttered, then restrained himself. "Why would he kill my kin?" His 16 eyes replayed the events. His kin had been devouring the origin essence of a source world when Luo Feng appeared and instantly annihilated him. Bavayu frowned. My race treats source worlds as food. For my kin to be slain just for taking nourishment, why would the cultivator lords intervene so fiercely? He knew how the cultivator lords valued every source world. These worlds produced the cultivators and mattered to them more than simple resources. They had already occupied 3,600 world clusters and still expanded. Bavayu understood their ambition. If the cultivator camp wanted to keep expanding, the Heavenly Origin camp and the Ice Peak camp would be hardest hit. As a relatively weak force, he had no appetite to provoke them. Reluctantly, he decided to look the other way and stay far from the coming conflict. Qianyan Ancestor, enraged and alarmed, felt the same fury. It was a close friend of Annihilation Ancestor, one of the 9 emperors, and a high figure in the Heavenly Origin camp. Its race had only a few dozen world-level Hunyuan and valued each one. If another race's Hunyuan died, Qianyan could usually accept it, but this time one of its own had been killed. Following the sensation, it looked out and saw that black-clad figure. The anger drained away and fear took its place. Luo Feng? Qianyan whispered, fury replaced by caution. It dared not confront him, and immediately informed its friend Annihilation Ancestor. The 9 emperors were the Heavenly Origin camp's supreme rulers. Luo Feng's 3,916 clones had, in a short span, slain roughly 3,000 world-level Hunyuan, about 500 from weaker forces, 800 from the Ice Peak camp, and about 1,700 from the Heavenly Origin camp. The weaker forces bore their losses. For them, these casualties were tolerable. But the larger camps were shaken. On the 20th level of the Abyss of Destruction, Ice Peak Ancestor, who had been prepared to receive Luo Feng's challenge, received the news instead that Luo Feng's clones were striking across many territories, exterminating world-level Hunyuan who were acting against source worlds. Ice Peak Ancestor did not grieve over the roughly 800 lost. Most of them were not progenitor's kin, and it was rare for a race to produce a progenitor. In the limitless primal space, there were over 30,000 races of world-level Hunyuan, but only around 200 progenitors total. What bothered Ice Peak Ancestor was the pattern. The cultivator lords were now actively targeting anyone who interfered with source worlds. The cultivator lords, once born, their strength stabilized among the top 20, and most were effectively undying. The cultivator camp already accounted for 8 of the top 20. Historically, the cultivator camp hadn't aggressively seized every resource, so Ice Peak and the cultivator camp had maintained decent relations. But as the cultivator camp grew and produced more lords, Ice Peak felt the pressure. Ice Peak Ancestor watched in silence and decided to let the Heavenly Origin camp and the cultivator camp clash for now. Infinite Serpent Ancestor received the reports with real unease. Nearly 1,700 of our world-level Hunyuan killed all encountered Luo Feng's clones while acting against source worlds. The cultivator camp interfered with source worlds outside its territory again and again. Starlight Lord and Mo Man Lord, for instance, habitually welcomed talented cultivators from many outside source worlds, frequently crushing any world-level Hunyuan who tried to take from those worlds during the process. The cultivator camp had cataloged the bloodlines of every world-level Hunyuan race, over 30,000 races, and Starlight Lord had spearheaded that record-keeping. That campaign spread terror across the limitless primal space, especially among races that had only a single world-level Hunyuan. Infinite Serpent Ancestor feared where the cultivator camp was headed. It had once tried to instigate large-scale war across the camps, but Luo Feng's breakthrough ended that attempt. Now, a few thousand deaths could not force a full-scale war. Luo Feng's strength had already risen to rival Starlight and Xiaozhou. Even if 100 progenitors on Infinite Serpent's side united, victory wasn't assured. The only hope was an alliance with the Ice Peak camp, but the venom between the Heavenly Origin camp and Ice Peak had festered for eons. Infinite Serpent rejected that option for now. In the Heavenly Origin camp territory, Luo Feng, black-clad, black-haired, stood in a void and stared at a source world ahead. His vision revealed the source world's history. its past glory, its myriad races, their interwoven cultivation systems, the rise of Chaos Realm beings, and then the arrival of a world-level Hunyuan. The scene ended with all life within the source world annihilated. Since becoming a lord, Luo Feng could peer far beyond the cultivator territory and see countless source worlds and the abuses they suffered. He had long felt anger and restraint. Reason told him to grow stronger if he wanted to change anything. Before, the 8 lords had been powerless to alter the system, and Luo Feng had been unwilling to linger on such tragedies. The suffering was too immense, beings and whole source worlds were reduced to food. But now he could not look away. Luo Feng watched these histories with a fierce, accumulating anger. Scene after scene of suffering poured into him, and the killing intent within him rose like a bellows-fed blaze. The more he saw, the more the fire within his heart burned, as though he were forging a weapon, his heart of destruction. My heart of destruction is still not strong enough, he realized. He had first encountered the Destruction Mountain hidden in the abyss of destruction, where endless killing intent and hatred surged, and memories flooded his mind as if they were his own. That experience had awakened something in him. He had felt as if he were countless sufferers, overwhelmed by despair and hatred for the skyborn mixed-source lives who preyed on source worlds. It taught him a path to temper his heart of destruction. But because he had the hope of resurrecting his home source world and his loved ones from the river of space-time, his heart had not yet been weighed down enough to reach the deepest edge of that forging. His home source world, the origin continent, was everything to him. Resurrecting his relatives and friends there had brought him immeasurable joy. Joy lightened his heart of destruction. That was why the distant source worlds had always been only observed, never felt with the same intensity. Now Luo Feng forced himself to feel them. He watched the long histories of countless source worlds and internalized every atrocity. Each image of suffering was kindling. Each memory fed the fire in his heart and refined his heart of destruction. My origin continent is most important. It is what I live to protect, he thought. But what separates my home from all those other source worlds? Nothing, except that I'm not yet strong enough to protect them all. If I don't grow stronger, the 3,600 world clusters we hold could one day be crushed. The limitless primal space was ruthless. Other camps were constantly producing powerful beings. Standing still meant falling behind. If some new supreme force arose and flattened the cultivator territory, what good was being undying if one's home source world and everyone dear to them were gone? The thought steeled Luo Feng's resolve. With blood and fire, annihilate all enemies. With endless destruction, guard the life of my race, he vowed. Luo Feng's 3,916 clones traversed one territory after another, observing source worlds, replaying their histories, and committing every grievance to memory. Those memories stoked his inner fire and refined his heart of destruction. One clone had descended into the hidden space-time of the Destruction Mountain. It sat cross-legged beside the mountain, occasionally reaching out to touch it, absorbing the endless killing intent and hatred until it felt like the countless beings who had died with grievances, feeling, remembering, and taking all of it into itself. Chapter 423, The Desire in My Heart. Time passed. Luo Feng, dressed in black, his hair the same, walked through the limitless primal space. He gazed across the void and fixed his sight on a source world. In the chaos sea of that source world, billions of small universes were nurtured, and each small universe contained countless plane worlds. Luo Feng's attention settled on one particular plane world. Humans thrived there, their bodies and faces 80 to 90% the same as Earth's. Most of them lived no more than 100 years. Their culture matches Earth's by 70 to 80%, Luo Feng observed. Among the innumerable civilizations scattered across the countless source worlds, such resemblance was rare. The people of this world faced the constant threat of phantom demons. For generations, the conflict between humans and phantom demons had shaped a distinctive cultivation system. What is real? What is fake? Is your power fake? One can cultivate the true, even through the fake. On a mountain, a master taught his disciple. "Master, is there a way to completely eliminate the phantom demons?" the disciple asked. "There is," the master replied, looking at him. But for generations, the fate of cultivators like us has been to perish at the hands of phantom demons. The disciple felt helpless. Since he had set foot on the path of cultivation, he had learned the bitter truth of their world. Whichever faction you joined, generations of disciples still died. Just because it couldn't be done in the past doesn't mean it can't be done in the future. The master smiled faintly and then looked up. The method has been passed down to you. I must do what I must do. The disciple was stunned. He had just joined the sect. Wolf Demon Mountain has plagued the 13 cities of the Northwest. I have cultivated to eradicate Wolf Demon Mountain. Now that the Juoshan legacy continues, I have no more worries. The master patted his head and turned to leave. In an instant, he streaked across the sky, leaving a tear in the heavens as he flew straight toward Wolf Demon Mountain. Master! The disciple knelt, tears in his eyes. Wolf Demon Mountain was an Earth-level calamity, second only to heaven-level calamities. An Earth-level calamity was an area shrouded by phantom demon power, bringing chaos to a whole province. Inside Wolf Demon Mountain, a terrifying battle erupted. With unparalleled skill, the master fought until more than half his life was exhausted and finally annihilated the wolf demon. Just as he watched the phantom demon's death with satisfaction, a force descended onto the corpse. After absorbing it, the wolf demon revived and its strength skyrocketed. Rumble. The affected area of Wolf Demon Mountain rapidly expanded. "Ha! Because of you, I broke through in desperation. Wolf Demon Mountain will now be a heaven-level calamity," the wolf demon laughed. Heaven-level calamity? The badly wounded master stared in disbelief. He had cultivated for 30 years just to destroy Wolf Demon Mountain, yet his actions had instead strengthened the wolf demon. This world already suffered greatly. Now another heaven-level calamity would arise? How powerless, the master murmured as the wolf demon's gaping maw swallowed heaven and earth, and then him. He had no means to resist. He could only accept death. At that moment, across vast distances in the limitless primal space, Luo Feng watched this universe, one among the countless within the chaos sea of that source world. The schemes of world-level Hunyuan life. "How can you little ones resist?" he whispered, shaking his head. In that source world, an avatar of a world-level Hunyuan life had descended and held its power at the Chaos Realm limit. With the strength at that level, it could secretly scheme in and control countless universes. The power there was far too dispersed. Each universe was less than 1/10,000th the size of a primordial universe. The strongest native cultivators weren't even at true god level. An avatar of a world-level Hunyuan life could easily steer events. All life emitted intense negative emotions: fear, despair, anger, hatred. Even with short lifespans, their high intelligence, intense emotions, and sheer numbers made them an irresistible source of sustenance to a world-level Hunyuan life. The amassed emotions of many ordinary beings outweighed those of the rare skyborn mixed source life. From across the void, Luo Feng manifested an avatar in that source world with a thought. His avatar also bore Chaos Realm limit strength. He raised his hand like a blade and softly spoke one word: fire. What he spoke became law. The blade light followed the life aura and struck down the avatar of the world-level Hunyuan life. It also erased many calamity powers in that source world. The wolf demon, merely one among countless calamity powers, was extinguished. At Wolf Demon Mountain, as the wolf demon's gaping maw descended, it suddenly vanished, silenced. All phantom demons across the world were annihilated. Across the entire source world, all calamity powers in every universe disappeared, erased without a trace. What's happening? The master rose slowly, bewildered. The sky was brighter than ever. The dark, gray aura of the phantom demons had gone. For the first time, sunlight bathed the land fully. Between heaven and earth, no phantom demon power remained. Is this real or an illusion? He wondered, repeatedly testing it. It was real. This world is real. The phantom demons are all gone. The master could not contain his joy. Our world has finally eradicated the phantom demons. Though he had told his disciple there was hope, he had never truly believed it himself. He had burned his life to make the world a little better. Today, what he had never dared to imagine had come to pass. Luo Feng stood in the limitless primal space and watched, a faint smile on his face. The people's joy warmed him. Once, I was like them. the most ordinary, most humble life in a source world, he thought. They are weak, but they possess love and hatred, joy and sorrow. They have desires and pursuits. Luo Feng cared about the suffering of the weakest because he had once been one of them. Lord Jin had been born from the destruction demon race. From birth, he had been accustomed to slaughter and survival of the fittest, with no pity for the weak. Luo Feng, however, pitied them because he had been one of them. What I can do now is limited, Luo Feng admitted. The enormous suffering that countless source worlds had endured, and still endured, told him a grim truth. Weakness leads to devastation. To stop his home source world from suffering the same fate, and to protect those countless weak beings, a strong desire grew in his heart. One day, I, Luo Feng, will make all beings in the limitless primal space fear devouring any source world, he vowed. To do it, he needed terrifying power, so that even the progenitors would truly fear him. My blade is not sharp enough yet. Luo Feng continued to travel through the limitless primal space, his many avatars spread out, observing source worlds' pasts and presents. Whenever he encountered a world-level Hunyuan life attempting to devour a source world's origin or its living beings, Luo Feng casually crushed it. The number of dead world-level Hunyuan life might not seem vast at first, but over time the toll accumulated. We can't touch source worlds recently, the world-level Hunyuan life warned each other. Whether it's the living beings or the source origin itself, if we try to devour it, Lord Luo Feng will appear. We can't resist him. Death is certain. Let's not risk exchanging for source world resources for now. As Luo Feng struck down one world-level Hunyuan life after another, the news spread. Nearly all world-level Hunyuan life in the limitless primal space temporarily refrained from devouring source world resources. They hesitated even to manifest avatars in source worlds, fearing the wrath of Lord Luo Feng. And so, for a while, the suffering of countless source worlds eased while Luo Feng's avatars roamed. World-level Hunyuan life can be afraid, some murmured. There are over 2 million world-level Hunyuan life in the limitless primal space, Luo Feng reflected. As the pioneer of the mixed-origin life extinguishment Dao, he could sense the life auras of all world-level Hunyuan life with a thought. Among them, the Heavenly Origin Camp had over 800,000. Many lived in remote regions. I've only traveled 100 epochs and slain about 7,000 world-level Hunyuan life, yet I've intimidated them all, Luo Feng felt. He had once believed himself powerless to influence the countless source worlds outside the cultivator territory. Once he acted, however, the result was clear. Crushing several thousand world-level Hunyuan life greatly improved the environment of innumerable source worlds. So some things must be attempted, he concluded. If you act, there will be corresponding rewards. Luo Feng's gaze went outward. Space-time ahead began to distort, faintly linking to a distant place. A colossal figure in that distance looked back and then crossed the void, descending into the vast space before him. An endlessly coiling giant serpent drifted into view, the infinite serpent ancestor, leader of the 9 emperors of the Heavenly Origin Camp. Luo Feng, stop! The infinite serpent ancestor called, fixing his gaze on Luo Feng. Chapter 424, Heart and Tao. United, Luo Feng faced the infinite serpent ancestor. The serpent stared at him with cold fury. Stop! Luo Feng regarded him with a faint smile. Infinite serpent ancestor, I haven't killed much lately. The infinite serpent ancestor bristled. He was unwilling to accept it, but he knew the truth. This newly risen lord had already become a terrifying enemy of the Heavenly Origin Camp. Luo Feng's strength was formidable and still growing. If his rise continued, he might one day surpass the Starlight Lord and become their greatest threat. Lord Luo Feng, the infinite serpent ancestor rumbled, in the past 100 epochs, you've intercepted and slain all the world-level Hunyuan that devour source worlds. Over 7,000 world-level Hunyuan have fallen by your hand. You've stopped killing recently because the world-level Hunyuan are terrified and no longer dare to devour source world resources. That's a good thing. Luo Feng nodded slightly. Skyborn mixed source life are born to break out of their cages. The limitless primal space has nurtured many resources that let them grow. They don't need to prey on source worlds. Without devouring source world origin, Skyborn mixed source life can still grow stronger, can still become progenitors. Luo Feng smiled at the infinite serpent ancestor. This way, Skyborn mixed source life and source world beings won't have to become natural enemies. The infinite serpent ancestor was stunned. Give up devouring? Skyborn mixed source life comprises many races. Some gain greatly from devouring source world origin, others only a little, and a few not at all. The infinite race benefited the most. For them to abandon source world origin would reduce their chance of birthing a progenitor by 70 to 80%, an intolerable blow. Impossible, the infinite serpent ancestor bellowed. Source worlds are scattered throughout the limitless primal space. Why should we give up that resource? Luo Feng, he glared. You know most Skyborn mixed source races need source world origin. You're obstruction. You're making enemies of all Skyborn mixed source life. You don't speak for all of them. Luo Feng met his gaze. If you choose to devour source worlds, you should accept the retaliation from source world beings. To devour a source world and be struck down by its inhabitants, this was karmic retribution, Luo Feng implied. I warn you, the infinite serpent ancestor continued, your obstruction will prevent many races from devouring source world resources. At first they may tolerate it, but over time it will spark wars. When those war flames sweep through cultivator territory and many world clusters fall, you will bear the consequences. Don't worry, Luo Feng said evenly. If war comes, its flames will sweep through your territory as well. During the last war, I had just become a lord. My methods were average, and I killed only a few progenitors. Luo Feng smiled. My strength has recently broken through. If another war comes, I'll give you an even bigger surprise. The infinite serpent ancestor thought of the source great destruction, the terrifying method Luo Feng had used before. Luo Feng's power had clearly advanced, and his tactics would be more troublesome now. It's good that your cultivator camp can bear the consequences, the infinite serpent ancestor sneered, then vanished like mist. Luo Feng watched him go. Start another war? He doubted the ancestor could. The cultivator camp and the heavenly origin camp had clashed for so long that both sides understood one another well. The infinite serpent ancestor was a powerful rallying figure inside the heavenly origin camp, but his influence had limits. Many progenitors whose races didn't particularly need source world resources wouldn't risk war. Weaker progenitors facing death would avoid it. The giant god emperor's faction disliked war outright. How many progenitors could the infinite serpent ancestor genuinely rally? The 8 cultivator lords were all undying. Among the progenitors of the heavenly origin camp, only 5 were undying, and the rest could die. Without clear advantage and safety, few would volunteer. One couldn't start a war simply by intercepting a few thousand world-level Hunyuan, Luo Feng thought, nor did the Starlight Lord, who could see countless possible futures. In the heavenly origin camp, the 9 emperors' avatars convened. Luo Feng's power is greater. Once war begins, casualties are unpredictable, Initial warned. He hasn't killed indiscriminately, the giant god emperor observed. If they refrain from devouring source world origin, there's no conflict. Limitless, your infinite race is too focused on source world origin, Black Tide Ancestor said coolly. Occasional abstinence might even help the evolution of the life core. If your strength isn't enough, forcing a war will only bring humiliation. The infinite serpent ancestor glared at the proceedings. Even among the 9 emperors, many were unwilling to go to war because it did not serve their interests. Are we just going to let this Luo Feng bully us? Annihilation Ancestor asked, yearning for battle. His old friend, Undying Ancestor, had already reached Undying, while Annihilation still lagged. It's not outright bullying, Undying Ancestor replied with a smile. The 2 camps have always had conflicts. Skyborn mixed source life enters cultivator territory to grab resources. What Luo Feng is doing is gentler than the Starlight Lord's approach. The former Starlight Lord slaughtered tens of thousands of world-level Hunyuan to collect bloodlines. Luo Feng targeted only those that devoured source worlds. Xingmang, who collected bloodlines indiscriminately, had been ruthless. It's not suitable for war. The mother of space-time suddenly spoke. The others looked at her. She could not see innumerable timelines like Xingmang, but she could perceive a handful of likely futures. Her judgment carried weight. I can see a war that would be far more disastrous for us than the last, the mother of space-time said. The heavenly origin camp would suffer a heavier price than the cultivator camp. Then we wait. Emberfire Ancestor suggested. Luo Feng is exploring the abyss of destruction. As he explores deeper, he will risk more and reveal more of his strength. When we fully understand him, we'll be better prepared, whether war begins or not. Devil Ruins and Shajo are aggressive. In clashing with them, Luo Feng will surely expose more of his power, Emberfire Ancestor added. Reluctantly, the others agreed. The Infinite Serpent Ancestor knew he couldn't force the issue. Luo Feng remained an enigma. 500 epochs passed since Luo Feng began intercepting world-level Hunyuan that devoured source worlds. In that time, no world-level Hunyuan dared to take source world resources, and even many progenitors temporarily stopped. For newly risen, weaker progenitors, devouring source world origin still had some effect, but as they grew, the benefit diminished. For beings at the level of an annihilation ancestor, source world origin was useless. Whoosh, whoosh. Beside the origin continent source world, within the Blood Crane territory, waves of the limitless blood sea surged. On an island deep in that sea, Luo Feng sat cross-legged. He wore black robes, a blood-colored cloak, and his hair was black as night. 500 epochs. I have seen all the source worlds. His eyes were complicated. In those centuries, countless avatars had traveled everywhere, witnessing the histories of each source world, both inside and outside the cultivator territory. The source worlds within the territory had two eras, one ruled by lords and another when skyborn mixed source life dominated. Under the latter, source worlds had been preyed upon without pity. Only with the rise of the lords, guardians of regions, did things change. Countless source worlds finally had hope. The entire historical memory of countless source worlds lived in Luo Feng's heart. These memories repeatedly scorched him, refining the heart of destruction. The volume of memory was immense, innumerable civilizations, countless lives. Yet Luo Feng, as a lord, could integrate it all. A being's experiences shape its spirit. This profound historical memory had remolded Luo Feng's inner being. The more you love this world, the more you need an unshakable heart of destruction, he thought. Mercy towards skyborn mixed source life that devour source worlds is cruelty to cultivators. The greatest mercy to cultivators is to eradicate all who devour source worlds. All who devour source worlds, all who devour source world beings, must be killed without mercy. No exceptions. Luo Feng's influence could temporarily stop many skyborn mixed source races from feeding on source worlds, but over time they would not tolerate it. The Heavenly Origin Camp might ally with other factions and return to the hunt. Destroying all source world devourers, that is a colossal goal. Luo Feng admitted that even if he mastered the Hunyuan Dao of the Blade, it might not be enough. But I, Luo Feng, will be like the foolish old man moving mountains through endless years, step by step. From intercepting the world-level Hunyuan, he had learned a simple truth. Action yields results. Strength produces effects. As long as he acted, he could protect countless beings. He smiled and set his next goal. The heart of destruction is formed. The next step is to unite heart and Dao, completely merge them. He began. The heart of destruction commanded the entire Hunyuan Dao of the Blade. Countless profound insights of the Blade Dao started converging. Luo Feng's aura shifted, becoming like a blade of annihilation, an aura more terrifying than those of Jin or Kafu Shu. Chapter 425, Sharpening the Knife, Part 1. As the highest-level life form in the infinite mixed origin space, Luo Feng's thinking surpassed his former self by ranks. With deep comprehension of both destruction and life, his heart and Dao had begun to align. In a single day, he conceived the Hunyuan Dao of the Blade, version 1.0. My Hunyuan Dao of the Blade centers on the Source Great Destruction System, pursuing ultimate power, he murmured. He planned to fuse the mixed origin life-extinguishing Dao perfectly with the Hunyuan Dao of the Blade. To do that, he had to exploit the mixed origin Dao's greatest advantage, its limitless energy, so the strong would only grow stronger. Infinite energy paired with ultimate destructive force might even threaten progenitors whose vitality was tenacious. Let's test it. Seated cross-legged on an island deep inside the Blood Crane territory, Luo Feng casually waved his hand. His palm became like a blade. A terrifying blade light erupted, ripping through limitlessly stretching space-time and cleaving the vast sea of blood in two. He frowned. This Hunyuan Dao of the Blade 1.0 has too many flaws. It locks targets well at close range, but it can't guarantee a lock at great distance. At the level of a lord or a progenitor, a single bodily motion could span enormous distances. Absolute lock-on within a wide range was essential to pose a real threat. Try the power of the source Great Destruction, he decided. With another wave, countless brilliant stars shot out. 360 million origin sources floated and arranged themselves into a pattern that radiated limitless destruction force, a weakened form of the source Great Destruction. The control is more precise. It can target specific areas. Luo Feng watched the dazzling scene, then frowned again. But it only increases power by 50%? He could already guess that the full 1.08 billion origin source version wouldn't boost power that much more. This version has too many flaws. He shook his head. It was far from the Hunyuan Dao he envisioned. Luo Feng returned to meditation on the island and began iterating. His insight and comprehension were terrifying. Time passed unnoticed. He churned out one design after another. In what felt like no time at all, he had crafted 10,938,329 versions of the Hunyuan Dao of the blade, and he felt no fatigue. Back when he was trapped in the cage, he had tried to conceive the mixed origin life-extinguishing Dao over 30 million times, nearly emptying his soul. Now 10 billion attempts were effortless. I've tried every possibility, he thought calmly. 10 billion versions took him less than 30 epochs. Among them 7 stood out, but still they weren't success. Only when a Dao truly succeeded could it become undying and merge into a lord's life. The Dao of the blade is meant for killing. I'll sharpen it further in actual combat, he decided. His aura dimmed as he drew back into seclusion. Simultaneously, the aura of his clone, hidden on the 19th level of the Abyss of Destruction, rose sharply. That clone reached its peak, then opened its eyes. Brother Yuan, Luo Feng transmitted. I'm ready to ascend to the next level. Yuan's avatar formed beside him. Planning to challenge layer by layer? Yuan chuckled. Yes. Luo Feng nodded. I'll try to fight every opponent first. With the mixed origin life-extinguishing Dao and a supreme destructive force, the severance power, Luo Feng believed he could contend even with Shizhou. The 7 refined blade Dao versions only increased his confidence. These opponents would all be his whetstones. I'll be watching, Yuan said, expectant. Luo Feng stepped through layers of spacetime toward the deeper 20th level of the destruction world. Yuan watched him go. According to Xingmang's observations, Luo Feng is perfecting his second Hunyuan Dao, Yuan thought. Once he breaks through, the strength of our camp could rise again. Luo Feng had also been intercepting and devouring Hunyuan life from source worlds outside the territory, evidence that he treated those countless source worlds as kin. As the first lord of the cultivator camp, Yuan had always seen territory as something to be expanded. All living beings of the source worlds were potentially within the cultivator race. I will expand the territory in the future. Luo Feng should approve, Yuan mused, then dissolved his avatar and continued refining his primal chaos rule Operation Dao. On the 20th level of the Abyss of Destruction, cold winds howled across a vast frozen continent. Luo Feng descended and saw in the distance the towering, mountain-like figure of Ice Peak Ancestor. The ancient being slowly opened its eyes and stood as if merged with the whole destruction world. You finally arrived. Ice Peak Ancestor greeted with a smile. How can I cooperate? Ice Peak Ancestor preferred cooperation to force. Resistance would be only more humiliating. Luo Feng, seeing the other's friendliness, did not press. Please, Ice Peak Ancestor, have all the world messengers join forces to deal with me, he asked. Ha ha ha! With me and all my messengers combined, you won't be easy to handle. Ice Peak Ancestor laughed, then extended a hand. Cold air raced across his palm as it rapidly grew larger. Within the expanding chill, 120 black figures condensed. His palm swelled until it covered half the sky, and the vast hand seemed to fuse with the ice continent itself, exuding crushing pressure even Luo Feng felt. So powerful, no wonder Ice Peak Ancestor could stand shoulder to shoulder with Brother Yuan, Luo Feng thought. Unlike Yuan's profound formations, Ice Peak Ancestor was more a living embodiment of Wu Lan, an immense physical powerhouse with relentless attacks. The gigantic palm smashed down. From the converging gap, 120 twisted black figures surged to encircle Luo Feng. Ice Peak Ancestor was surprised. He felt pain in his palm. Luo Feng had not retreated. He simply stood and absorbed the blow, enduring the siege of the world messengers. On Destruction Mountain, he had already uncovered the secrets of the 20th level's destructive force. He could see through the messenger's attack patterns. I thought his body was like a blade, Ice Peak Ancestor realized as the palm struck what felt like a blade edge and sustained injury. Inside Luo Feng, 1.08 billion origin energies flowed. His whole being had become a terrifying blade. Then Luo Feng moved. A brilliant blade light pierced Ice Peak Ancestor's palm, carving a gap through the immense ice. The blade light streamed through and then flashed across the sky to strike Ice Peak Ancestor's chest, causing surface cracks. The Ancestor's skin healed nearly instantly, the fractures sealing with negligible energy loss. What a terrifying physique, Luo Feng thought as the blade light twisted and vanished into shadow. Hidden and unseen, it cut at vitality. Ice began to dust and flake from Ice Peak Ancestor's body, layer by layer, annihilated. Though no more blade light was detectable, a portion of the Ancestor's immense form was losing vitality. Without vitality, there was death. Previously, Luo Feng had relied mainly on the mixed-origin life-extinguishing Dao and had underestimated its effect on progenitors, but combined with lethal destruction, it produced a miraculous result against Ice Peak Ancestor. The invisible blade had done real harm. A figure condensed in the distance, Luo Feng, standing and reflecting. The two Daos together strengthen life severing, he concluded. Life needs vitality. Take that away, and it dies. This technique doesn't target matter or special energies. It targets vitality itself, quiet when it strikes, but extremely effective. His brief exchange with Ice Peak Ancestor made clear that combining the two Hunyuan Daos dramatically increased the power of severing life. This subtle, silent technique had a promising future. The source Great Destruction chases ultimate power to destroy. Severing life suits my other path. I must refine it. Plans and improvements flowed through his mind. One rarely understood a Dao fully in seclusion. It became clear in battle. I won't continue, Luo Feng told Ice Peak Ancestor. I'm going to the next level. Ice Peak Ancestor blinked. Luo Feng usually endured sieges for a full epoch or two. Now he was moving on so quickly, Luo Feng stepped and vanished into a deeper destruction world. Although brief, their confrontation had drawn attention from ancient beings in limitless primal space. Seeing Ice Peak Ancestor hold no clear advantage against Luo Feng surprised many. Luo Feng's strength is comparable to Sha Zhou's. Ice Peak Ancestor not defeating him is understandable, they muttered. On the 21st level, Infinite Serpent Ancestor watched with interest. He advanced so fast, the serpent murmured as the black-haired man descended. Luo Feng's quick pace was unexpected. Luo Feng sized up Infinite Serpent Ancestor. Compared to Ice Peak Ancestor's straightforward defenses, the Infinite Serpent's ability to change size and warp through the void, elusive and unpredictable, would be a far better test for his blade techniques. If he could strike the Infinite Serpent, his blade would truly be powerful. Infinite Serpent Ancestor, please give it your all, Luo Feng said. You want me to cooperate? The serpent sneered. As head of the 9 emperors of the opposing Heavenly Origin camp, pride made cooperation unlikely. Luo Feng smiled faintly and shook his head. Then I can only do it the hard way. Chapter 426, Knife Sharpening, Medium. Infinite Serpent Ancestor was confident. With the power of the infinite world, he could enter complete etherealization. In that state, no material force could harm him at all. Of course, he couldn't harm others either while fully etherealized, but the infinite world's absolute etherealization was a unique advantage, and with it, he did not fear Luo Feng. Boom, boom. Both sides struck with everything they had from the first moment. This layer of destruction world warped into a void maze. The Infinite Serpent Ancestor seemed to become one with the maze, appearing and disappearing at will, vanishing and reappearing unpredictably as he relentlessly hurled attacks at Luo Feng. The fight drew attention across the entire infinite mixed origin space. The Cultivator camp and the Heavenly Origin camp had been enemies for so long that everyone watched closely. Initial land, Yuan, Lord Jin, Wulan, Minghuang, Naigu, Xingmang, and Moman, the 7 lords, stood by, all keenly watching the growth of their comrade Luo Feng. Given how rapidly Luo Feng was advancing through techniques by force, they expected him to master a second Hunyuan Dao soon. They were all waiting for that moment. Luo Feng's blade techniques are fierce and explosive, but the serpent ancestor is unpredictable. None of his strikes land, Ming Huang frowned. Even with hundreds of blades unleashed, none have touched him, Wulan added. Starlight Lord nodded. Infinite Serpent Ancestor hasn't even used absolute etherealization yet. Just by manipulating the void, he's evaded all of Luo Feng's attacks. Under the Serpent's void control, every blade light Luo Feng sent veered off course. Then something changed. Luo Feng altered his blade technique. The power of each strike dropped, but the blades moved with a spiritual precision, tracing strange arcs, passing through layers of space-time obstacles, and homing in to strike the serpent ancestor hidden in the void maze. Each blade became a guaranteed hit. No matter how advanced the serpent's void attainments were, he couldn't dodge these strikes. Absolute hit? Yuan smiled. Ming Huang, Lord Jin, and Mo Man all nodded. These three were masters of absolute hits themselves. Luo Feng hasn't practiced it long. Maintaining absolute hits means each blade can't be pushed to full power yet, Lord Jin said with a laugh. He should learn from me. His blades lack raw power, but his speed is tremendous, Mo Man murmured. Luo Feng's blade lights struck in dense, spirit-guided sprays, branching and converging, piercing the spatial barriers and slamming into the serpent ancestor's body. The constant barrage rapidly eroded his form, so much so that he needed the destruction world's energy to stay at peak strength. Infinite Serpent Ancestor sneered at the idea of relying on that energy. Such a supply wouldn't exist in the outside world. He began to invoke absolute etherealization. When Luo Feng's river of blade lights hit him, he simply vanished into pure ethereality and felt no damage. Being hit doesn't mean you can hurt him, Yuan observed. Just as Initial Ancestor could let enemies strike without being threatened, the absolutely etherealized Infinite Serpent Ancestor proved similarly difficult to harm. He was not as invulnerable as Initial Ancestor, but still one of the most troublesome foes. There's nothing we can do, Ming Huang said, shaking his head. All of Luo Feng's moves aren't threatening him. Even with this void attainment, he can't be touched, Naigu agreed. Luo Feng's techniques tore through the destruction world. He formed a blade formation of 15 terrifying streaks that swept through every corner. The absolutely etherealized serpent watched calmly, finding only occasional gaps for sneak attacks. Absolute hit can threaten most ancestors, but for some, being hit is useless, Yuan mused. Luo Feng used the serpent as practice. While experimenting, the Hunyuan Dao of the blade in his mind matured. Then, suddenly, Luo Feng swung again, but no blade light was visible. It was imperceptible. Still, scales on the serpent ancestor silently vanished. The creature froze. Severing life force, Luo Feng said, eyes bright. Not severing flesh or soul, but cutting the life force itself. This was only possible because he had mastered the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao. When he first reached Lord level, his killing methods had been comparatively weak. The effect of severing life force hadn't fully emerged and was useful mainly against world-level Hunyuan beings. But as his Hunyuan Dao of the blade improved, the power behind severing life force increased, revealing its terrifying strength. It became unavoidable. No matter how ethereal, if it was a living being, it could not evade the severing life force once Luo Feng sensed and traced its life force. Luo Feng realized the attack traveled along the life force channel, but that channel had an upper energy limit set by his mastery of life force. He was already the most accomplished in life within the limitless primal space, so he could not raise that cap. His solution: increase the speed and refine the blade technique itself to raise its effective power. As the path of the blade continued to perfect, he believed it could grow even stronger. Whoosh, whoosh, Luo Feng experimented with variations of the move, testing every conjecture against such a worthy opponent. Each time he cut at the serpent's life force, more scales vanished and muscles withered. Even under absolute etherealization and within the void maze, the serpent felt real harm. That shocked many ancestors watching. Never act alone or appear before Luo Feng in your true form became the consensus. Ancestors all had tenacious vitality and emergency life-saving techniques, but Luo Feng's methods were too dangerous to risk. Lose the gamble and they would be gone. Lord Jin, who had considerable life accumulation, saw what was happening. "It's life force," he said, stunned. "He senses life force and severs it? How can life force be severed?" Even Bloodlord, who wielded blood power and had deep control over life force, found it difficult to comprehend. By sensing life force, you could transmit a faint energy that might wound a world-level Hunyuan life, but that trace would be negligible to an ancestor. Luo Feng's move had transcended that. Xing Mang, who had scouted countless future timelines, watched with approval. The combination of life and destruction Daos would produce terrifying results. He'd long predicted Luo Feng would become one of the most fearsome figures in future battles, the Cultivator camp's frontline core. Luo Feng's blade would be the sharpest instrument in their ranks, cutting through all obstacles. The second Dao was taking shape. It could coalesce at any moment. Only a trace of life force sensing could still threaten the serpent ancestor. Luo Feng practiced the severing life force repeatedly, while the serpent, sustained by destruction world energy and world power blessings, tried desperately to conceal and protect his life force. Fighting a formidable opponent let Luo Feng perfect the technique again and again, and as severing life force improved, the Hunyuan Dao of the blade grew more complete. Finally, Luo Feng grew confident. Infinite Serpent Ancestor no longer posed a real challenge. Luo Feng had become intimately familiar with his evasive tricks. "Infinite Serpent Ancestor, release the world messengers," Luo Feng commanded. "You want me to cooperate?" The Serpent Ancestor chuckled. The severing life force could continuously erode him, but inside the destruction world, he could absorb energy and maintain his peak. Still, letting Luo Feng take this layer would be a different matter. Luo Feng snorted, then transformed into a terrifying blade light and tore toward the source shadow of this destruction world. If the serpent would not cooperate, he would seize the world himself. "Fine," the serpent conceded with a hint of helplessness. Losing to Lord Luo Feng was not shameful. Even Shizhou might not be as capable. But before Luo Feng could reach the source shadow, 100 world messengers coalesced in his path, each aflame in blue, and surged to intercept him. Hard words, but decisive action. Luo Feng only traded blows with them for a few breaths. With the secrets he had observed on Destruction Mountain and his combat-honed understanding, the world messengers proved useless against him. Chapter 427, Sharpening the Blade, Part 2. Abyss of Destruction, 22nd level. The destruction world here was torn and twisted, a storm of surging energy currents circling a peculiar cube, the Devil Ruins, which could sense Luo Feng's presence from afar. "He's here," the Devil Ruins pulsed, eager. Born at the peak of the limitless primal space, undying and indestructible, his short-range destructive power was arguably unmatched. But the progenitors and ancestors rarely engaged him in direct combat. His movement techniques were weak, and his deterrent effect suffered for it. On the Abyss of Destruction, he only occupied the 22nd level, far below Shizhou and Xing Mang. A figure cut through space-time and descended, Luo Feng. "You've come," the Devil Ruins throbbed with excitement. Luo Feng scanned the level. The shattered destruction world revolved around the cube. It reminded him of the fourth sculpture on Destruction Mountain, that composite entity formed from 125 small cubes. That sculpture's methods were far more developed than the Devil Ruins. It was deadly at close range and formidable at long range. At the moment, that sculpture's power still far exceeded Luo Feng's. The Devil Ruins has potential, Luo Feng thought. He could evolve toward that fourth sculpture form, but his current moves are crude. Since birth, the Devil Ruins had shown little improvement. "How would you like to fight? One-on-one, or shall I send world messengers to surround you?" it asked, eager. "Either is fine," Luo Feng replied with a smile. He held no grudge against the Devil Ruins. He disliked only the Infinite Serpent Ancestor. For a solitary, undying existence of such scale, few made enemies. "Ha ha! One-on-one it is!" The massive cube erupted with terrifying fluctuations and lunged forward, energy currents trailing in its wake. Its apparent speed was high, but among lords and ancestors, its movement technique was weak. Beings like the Infinite Serpent Ancestor or Yu Huang could be omnipresent. Even Luo Feng, aided by the Blood Crane territory, could only perform short-range, ghost-like transpositions. Wu Lan, among the 8 lords, was still faster than the Devil Ruins. "Don't dodge! Don't dodge!" The cube seemed to plead as it closed, craving a head-on clash. Luo Feng, robed in blood red, stood still. Across the infinite mixed origin space, no life form could force him to retreat. He wanted to see how far the Devil Ruins' close-range destruction could go. Boom. Luo Feng sensed the cube's pointed tip strike his protective energy layer. That layer had been formed by 10.8 billion primordial origin energies and woven through the profound mysteries of the mixed origin life extinguishment Tao, further enhanced by the blood crane territory. It possessed undying and shadow-like properties. At the touch, the layer indented. The cube's tip pierced the energy barrier, shredded the blood-red robe, and drove through skin and bone. This, Luo Feng murmured, is astonishing. Although he had faced the fourth sculpture before, that sculpture had long since moved beyond such crude methods. Luo Feng had never encountered such a pure, singular technique. The cube's tip was sharper than the theoretical limit of the infinite mixed origin space. That single point concentrated an impossible destructive force. In terms of focused destruction at a single point, even scores of progenitors working together could not match it. But it had a fatal flaw. The tip was infinitesimally small, so small it transcended theoretical limits. Luo Feng's body was immense, a third the size of a source world, and had no vital points. Even if such a point pierced his form, the resulting damage would be very limited. The range of destruction was simply too narrow. The tip drove into him, its edges painfully sharp and its overall force immense, lodging into his bulk. But the injury was shallow, and Luo Feng's energies quickly recovered the slight loss. The Devil Ruins reveled in the clash. "You dare meet me head-on, Luo Feng. I like opponents like you." It compared this to past encounters. Starlight Lord, who had been untouchable. Shazhou, who became omnipresent flame. None had challenged it so directly. Luo Feng's willingness to clash delighted it. "I like opponents like you too," Luo Feng replied inwardly, and he began to analyze the attack. He had long mastered Severance Power and the Hunyuan Dao of the blade, which sought to cut through anything. Repeated clashes with the cube let him glimpse the profound mysteries within that singular strike. That sharp point was not ordinary matter. At such an extreme point, no matter or energy could exist independently, only rule. The point's rule arose from the entanglement of profound mysteries, vast extreme points entwined with destruction. The Devil Ruins was born with the power of extreme points and destruction force. Those gifts granted terrifying destructive power and the trait of undying. He and Initial represented two extremes, nearly perfect from birth. Luo Feng could only comprehend the destructive aspect. He could not master the cube's innate nature. The Devil Ruins charged again and again. Luo Feng met it head-on, learning its pattern. The cube realized its limitation. Its extreme point was indestructible but too small. Destroying an opponent at one point inflicted only minor harm. The Devil Ruins mulled evolution. "Kafushu told me about a sculpture," it remembered. "Splitting into 125 to evolve, I tried it, but when I split, each subbody grew weak. Even with hints from Kafushu, it didn't know how to evolve effectively." Luo Feng, having pierced deeper into the nature of the cube's strike, experimented with more blade techniques. The Devil Ruins, ecstatic, summoned 90 world messengers to besiege him, but even together, they lacked cohesion. With his blade formations, Luo Feng routed them easily. Then, mid-battle, the Devil Ruins suddenly froze, seemingly dazed. Its world messengers, bound to prior orders, continued their attack. Luo Feng didn't press the advantage. He took a step, slipped through space-time, left the messengers behind, and climbed up to the 23rd level. This confrontation had been expected by many in the limitless primal space. The Devil Ruins' shortcomings were clear. Few thought he could best Luo Feng. Luo Feng passed the 23rd, 24th, and 25th levels, destruction worlds that even Yuan, the Ice Peak Ancestor, the Infinite Serpent Ancestor, and the Devil Ruins had failed to clear, and arrived at the 26th level. This was Starlight Lord's domain. Luo Feng stayed there for a time. He and Xingmang did not clash, disappointing distant progenitors watching for a high-stakes duel. Back at Initial Land, Yuan, Jin, Wulan, Minghuang, Naigu, Xingmang, and Moman, the seven lords gathered to meet Luo Feng. "Do you need opponents now?" Yuan asked with a smile. "There's no need for outsiders to witness our sparring," Xingmang added. "The seven of us will take turns." Jin looked at Luo Feng. I want to see whose destruction Dao is stronger, yours or mine. The lords knew each other's strengths. Luo Feng had become a lord by mastering the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao, rooted chiefly in life. His second Hunyuan Dao had to be primarily destruction. Among us 7, I was the last to become a lord, Mo Man said with a grin. I'll go first. Thank you all. I won't refuse, Luo Feng replied. Although he had not faced the lords while traversing the abyss of destruction, lords, each with at least one Hunyuan Dao, were masters of combat techniques. On initial land, Luo Feng and the other lords conserved 10% of their energies and sparred in turn. These bouts exposed Luo Feng to the threats posed by other Hunyuan Daos. In raw reserves, he had an advantage, but in specialized methods, the lords often outclassed him. The clashes sharpened his understanding of the Hunyuan Dao of the blade. He now had a clear vision of what his blade Dao should be. On the 26th level of the Abyss of Destruction, Luo Feng sat cross-legged and opened his eyes to see Starlight Lord watching from a distance. If you're ready, you could establish your Hunyuan Dao of the blade now, Starlight Lord observed. Yes, I could establish it at any time, Luo Feng replied. During his fights with the 7 lords, the urge to formalize his blade Dao had been overwhelming. Yet Luo Feng chose to delay. I have one more fight, he said, looking toward the deeper layers of the abyss. After I face Sha Zhou, that will be the right time to establish the Hunyuan Dao of the blade. Starlight Lord nodded with a thin smile. Luo Feng rose and stepped to the 27th level. Sha Zhou would be his last opponent in this regimen, the most fearsome wielder of destruction he had yet to meet. Across the limitless primal space, more than 200 ancestor-level and lord-level existences pierced space-time to watch. None wanted to miss the coming battle. Chapter 428, Hunyuan Sword Dao, Final Chapter. The 27th layer of the Abyss of Destruction. The ground was a shifting mosaic of colored crystals. Standing upon that crystalline earth was a woman in gray robes. Winds powerful enough to annihilate a world-level Hunyuan life howled across the layer, yet not a single strand of her hair moved. Her eyes pierced through the barriers of space to watch Luo Feng on the layer above. She had awaited this battle for a long time. Whoosh! The black-haired man in blood-red robes finally descended into this layer of the destruction world. Luo Feng, Sha Zhou smiled faintly, an expression with an odd charm. At this moment, all forces within the limitless primal space, including some extremely secretive existences, were watching this duel. Big Sister Sha Zhou, Yuan breathed when he saw her smile again. Sha Zhou was reclusive, wholly devoted to the pursuit of ultimate strength. Her smiles were rare in his memory. After the Cultivator camp and the Ice Peak camp gradually drifted apart, he and Sha Zhou seldom acted together. Among the ancestors, Sha Zhou has the greatest destruction talent. With 2 top-tier powers, her might is astonishing, Xing Mang said admiringly. Many, Ice Peak Ancestor, Infinite Serpent Ancestor, Kafu Shu, Yu Huang, Devil Ruins, and others, controlled 2 highest-level powers, and some even commanded mysterious lands. But Sha Zhou's strength was unique among them. In pure destructive power, I'm a step behind her, Xing Mang admitted. He relied on combinations of methods. Only in a direct clash was he comparable to Sha Zhou. Big Sister Sha Zhou is very pure, Yuan nodded. If any ancestor can comprehend a Hunyuan Dao, she's the most likely. Ice Peak Ancestor watched from afar as well. Long ago, before he had founded the Ice Peak camp, and while his strength was comparatively weak, he and Sha Zhou had traveled the limitless primal space together, exploring many mysterious lands. She had protected and looked after him then. Only after he reached the undying and undying level did Sha Zhou begin to let him go. Big Sister Sha Zhou, I believe you will surely win, Ice Peak Ancestor murmured. Even if Luo Feng is talented, he isn't you. Since she became invincible, Sha Zhou has never lost. On the crystalline plane of the 27th layer, Luo Feng and Sha Zhou faced one another. I've been waiting for you a long time, Sha Zhou said, a battle light in her eyes. Luo Feng, fight with everything you have. Sha Zhou, I ask the same of you. Luo Feng's battle intent flared just as intensely. He was at the point where he could open the Hunyuan Dao of the blade at any moment. But he still wanted to see the full measure of Sha Zhou's strength, the one who had been invincible in the limitless primal space for so long. A suitable opponent at Luo Feng's level was rare, Xiaozhou was a perfect match. Be careful. The moment Xiaozhou finished speaking, her gray-robed form dispersed into boundless flames that spread instantly across the layer. The crystalline ground, extraordinary even by the abyss's standards, melted and flowed into a shimmering, kaleidoscopic liquid. Mists of color rose and mixed with the flames. The fire itself was pale white, incinerating everything. A low, eerie wail echoed through the destruction world. Luo Feng stood firm behind his protective energy shield, resisting the advance of the flames. He watched the land liquefy and guessed it had been melted and reforged countless times. Flame as root, destruction as fruit. A cold, clear voice echoed through the blaze. Within the vast fire, a black flame condensed. The instant the black flame formed, it burned across its surface and simultaneously burned within Luo Feng's body. In a blink, every flame that had permeated the layer turned black. Those black flames surrounded Luo Feng, incinerating him inside and out. Burning through all defenses? Fire everywhere? Luo Feng felt his body expending roughly 1/10 of his reserves every breath. The destructive power was terrifying. I know Lord Luo Feng wields the power of life. For this battle, I made the technique life incineration. Xiaozhou's voice rang out. I plan to burn my true body and release my strongest blow. Luo Feng remained patient. He truly wanted to see her strongest strike, to watch her burn her true body. Buzz, in the void, flames wrapped around Luo Feng. The black fire, already burning within and around him, converged. Luo Feng's expression tightened. Source great destruction? All the flame power across the layer condensed inside Luo Feng in an instant. The flames were formless and faceless, impossible to stop. As they converged, an explosion akin to the source great destruction began to unfold. The most terrifying aspect was that, at the point where all the flame power focused, fundamental rules were leveraged, triggering the self-destruction of the destruction world itself. Space-time began to unmake, powers unraveled. Everything, including Luo Feng's own body and energy, were affected. Boom! Luo Feng felt, with a strange delight, this terrifying great destruction erupting within him. In that moment, Luo Feng made his body erupt outward, his energy rapidly dispersing throughout the layer. This was precisely what he wanted. At the core of his Hunyuan Dao of the blade was the Great Destruction System, making a given amount of energy unleash superlative might. Xiaozhou's true body possessed roughly 1/10 of Luo Feng's reserves, yet the force of her blow reached 70 to 80% of Luo Feng's source Great Destruction. Crucially, her strike was undefendable. It erupted at the enemy's very core. By comparison, Luo Feng's source Great Destruction was clumsier. Rumble, the layer convulsed with destruction and became a turbulence of energy currents. Some currents recondensed, forming Luo Feng's figure. He retained 70% of his reserves and was recovering fast. Your recovery is fast, Xiaozhou observed. Her form, too, reformed from the energy. She could recover quickly because she controlled this destruction world. But within the destruction world, my power is endless. I can keep launching killing moves. Boom! Luo Feng felt it and dispersed himself preemptively. Great destruction strikes erupted repeatedly across the 27th layer. Each time Xiaozhou burned her true body, the residual power, amplified by the destruction world, launched another killing move. The assaults were endless, turning the layer into boiling chaos. Xiaozhou, your killing move bursts at a single point. My body is dispersed through heaven and earth. Each strike can only slightly harm me. Luo Feng's voice echoed through the turmoil. You experience one of my moves. It's a killing technique I comprehended after entering the abyss of destruction. Xiaozhou countered. As he endured Xiaozhou's continuous onslaught, Luo Feng's accumulated knowledge reached a tipping point. Studying the destructive profundity of her technique, he could grasp its destructive rules, though its combination of firepower and destruction force he could not fully imitate. Yet observing it deepened his understanding of the great destruction system at the heart of his Tao. Insight coalesced into patterns into a whole. He could no longer hold it back. Whoosh! Luo Feng swung the blade in his hand. The strike shook Xiaozhou, whose power suffused the layer. She saw a new, more powerful direction. The swing carried an unshakable will. As it cut through, the 27th layer split open entirely. The rupture reached into the deeper 28th and even into the 29th layer. The single stroke pierced 3 layers of the abyss. Even though Xiaozhou's body had become formless fire, 80% of it was annihilated in an instant. The 27th layer had been devastated. Its power supply for her recovery was gone. The shattered 27th, the split 28th, the half-sundered 29th. So strong. Xiaozhou reconstituted into her gray robes, her eyes bright with fervor. Too strong. Among the ancestors, she had been unique. Now Luo Feng had proven himself uniquely powerful in a class of his own. Mixed origin life extinguishment Dao, Hunyuan Dao of the blade. Luo Feng's strike combined two Hunyuan Dao. The ferocity of the blow was terrifying. I lost, Xiaozhou admitted, but she was exhilarated. She had glimpsed a path forward. No wonder Destruction Mountain had 7 trials. Luo Feng completely surpassed her in their clash. Luo Feng, your blade can be called the most terrifying blade in the entire limitless primal space, Xiaozhou said. The entire cultivator camp will change because of you. Her feelings were complex. She knew the Ice Peak camp could no longer match the cultivator camp. Starlight Lord controlled space-time, calculating with perfect precision. Luo Feng was invincible. Yuan could combine the powers of many lords flawlessly. With those 3, the foundation of the cultivator camp was set, unshakable. You flatter me, Luo Feng said, still pondering the Hunyuan Dao of the blade he had just realized. Xiaozhou hesitated, then sent a thought to him. Luo Feng, with your destruction talent, you must have been to Destruction Mountain, right? Luo Feng nodded. I have. How many trials did you pass? She asked. 3. Luo Feng did not conceal it. Xiaozhou understood immediately. Indeed, you're stronger than I am. She looked at him, unable to hide a desire. I want a destruction fruit. If you can give me one, I will fully support the cultivator camp going forward. Luo Feng was surprised. Destruction fruits were invaluable. One was as precious as an ordinary, mysterious land's blessing. But Xiaozhou's allegiance to the cultivator camp would be a monumental gain. On the one hand, it would sever her ties to the Ice Peak camp. On the other, it would strengthen the cultivator camp almost as much as adding a new lord. You can come find me anytime, Xiaozhou transmitted. She was a lone wolf, weary of the Ice Peak camp's disputes. The Ice Peak ancestor she had once cared for was already undying and no longer needed her protection. Having consumed 2 destruction fruits already, she was willing to side with the cultivator camp for the 3rd, if Luo Feng agreed. I need to think about it carefully, Luo Feng replied. Take your time. Xiaozhou's patience was deep. Do you need a world messenger to accompany you? Good. Luo Feng smiled faintly. End of this volume. No update tomorrow. The final volume will begin the day after tomorrow. Swallowed Star 2, Origin Continent, is expected to conclude in August. The Swallowed Star story, which began in 2010, will reach its final ending in August 2025, and Luo Feng's story will soon close. Fanqi thanks everyone for their continued support. Chapter 429, Lord Luo Feng's New Era. Inside the monumental main hall of the Heavenly Origin Camp, the 9 emperors' minds converged one after another. You all saw Luo Feng and Xiaozhou's fight, right? Infinite Serpent Ancestor said. That blade strike was terrifying. Annihilation Ancestor breathed. After Luo Feng fully mastered the Hunyuan Dao of the blade and combined 2 Hunyuan Dao, he had unleashed a single stroke of destructive power, so fierce it pierced 3 layers of the abyss of destruction. It astonished many ancient existences. Historically, no one has ever killed a progenitor one-on-one, Infinite Serpent Ancestor observed. But Luo Feng's killing power already surpasses Xing Mang and Xiaozhou. He's at the very pinnacle of the entire limitless primal space. I have a sense he could possibly slay a progenitor alone. Progenitors who survive to this level are not easy to kill, Mother of Space-Time interjected. In the futures she had glimpsed, one-on-one assassinations of progenitors did not appear. Those who become progenitors have life cores evolved nearly to the level of a source world's origin and possess formidable life-saving methods. Take the 3 former lords of Blood Crane territory, for example. Blood Lord had mastered the highest blood power, able to flood the world in blood with reserves and recovery only slightly below Luo Feng's. Crane Lord commanded Dying Power, a version of Wu Lan's ability. Shadow Lord wielded Shadow Power, each extremely troublesome. Those 3 were ordinary among progenitors. They were not qualified to take seats within the abyss of destruction's inner layers. nor were they fit for the eternal land. The truly formidable progenitors, like Lotus Hell Mountain Master, were effectively undying, unkillable. Flawed progenitors with significant weaknesses in life-saving were rare. Across the ages, they were the first to be eliminated by prolonged conflicts between forces. Mother of Space-Time, did you see anything? Giant God Emperor asked. In some possible futures, I did not see any one-on-one progenitor kills, Mother of Space-Time replied. But if he cooperates with Xing Mang, or with Yuan, they can both kill a progenitor. I saw that possibility. The other 8 felt a collective chill. Historically, progenitors fell only in massive wars. Now, 2 lords acting together could potentially assassinate one. Emberfire Ancestor worried aloud. Luo Feng can conceal all life fluctuations, and Xingmang and Yuan can too. To hide all life fluctuations, so progenitors' perception techniques like karma probes and vitality scans could not detect you, was extraordinarily difficult. But the lords who mastered Hunyuan Dao had abilities beyond ordinary measures. Luofeng, Xingmang, Yuan, and Moman could completely conceal themselves, unprobable by equals. Others, Wulan, Jin, Minghuang, Naigu, could not. Before, sneak attacks couldn't work, Infinite Serpent Ancestor said. Even if Xingmang, Yuan, and Moman teamed up, their burst power alone wouldn't kill a progenitor quickly. I could descend via the infinite world to provide support. The Infinite Great Serpent Clan's ability to descend through the infinite world was unique to them. Yes, Mother of Spacetime continued, but Luo Feng's explosive strike is too terrifying. With his force, he can shatter most of a progenitor's defenses. Starlight Lord, or Yuan Lord, only needs to finish off the remainder. So, combined with either Yuan or Xingmang, Luo Feng could kill a progenitor in a short time. Both Xingmang and Yuan were masters at hunting down residual forces. The era has changed, Mother of Spacetime said. Luo Feng's rise means the whole limitless primal space is entering a new era. In this era, progenitors will fall more easily. The 9 emperors understood the implications. Previously, progenitors could only be taken down through large-scale warfare that overcame their life-saving methods. Now Luo Feng, together with Yuan or Xingmang, and concealing themselves, could appear unannounced beside a progenitor and assassinate them quickly. Our strategy against the cultivator camp must change, Limitless Progenitor declared solemnly. Though he himself was undying and unkillable, he did not want the Heavenly Origin camp to weaken. A weakened camp meant fewer resources for all the 9 emperors. Infinite Serpent Ancestor turned to Giant God Emperor. If you remain unwilling to act and our camp weakens, your Giant God clan won't be guaranteed resources either. We can't be fighting while you reap the benefits. Giant God Emperor nodded. Understood. Our Giant God clan will shoulder its duties. The Giant God clan had over 10 progenitors plus many world-level and high-level Hunyuan descendants. As the camp's second-largest clan, their resource consumption was enormous. Let us adjust our approach to future wars. Initial said, prioritize self-preservation. Killing the enemy comes second. I agree, Mother of Spacetime added. In past wars, we relentlessly pursued killing the enemy. We treated the cultivator camp as a whetstone, sacrificing 1 or 2 progenitors as acceptable losses. That must stop. Future battle formations must emphasize progenitors with strong life-saving abilities as the core, she continued. Only then can we maintain an absolute advantage. Cooperative arrays that focused purely on offense, several progenitors launching soul attacks at once, raised killing power but left life-saving weak. Instead, they should anchor formations around progenitors who had the highest level life power, defense power, water power, earth power, world power, material power, and domain power to make the core unshakable. Mother of Spacetime's foresight, though narrower than Xing Mang's, revealed some viable directions that could save many detours. An ordinary cultivator lord could face 2 or 3 progenitors together. Previously, when the 7 lords of the cultivator camp cooperated, even with Yuan's arrays boosting their strength, they were at a disadvantage. They depended on Xing Mang scanning countless futures, on Yuan's arrays to support them, and on precise cooperation, defense with occasional counterstrikes, but they still suffered repeated defeats and territorial losses. After Luo Feng became a lord, Giant God Emperor and 2 others had joined the battle. Their combined effort had seized Luo Feng while Infinite Serpent Ancestor and others trapped Wu Lan. It was Luo Feng's source great destruction and the devastation it wrought that panicked many progenitors. They realized it was no longer worth risking annihilation for 3,600 world clusters, prompting a ceasefire. If we cannot ensure progenitors' safety, many of the weaker ones will be unwilling to fight, Annihilation Ancestor warned. I never thought we would be forced to design formations primarily for survival, Emberfire Ancestor lamented. The Heavenly Origin Camp controlled half of the limitless primal space. The Cultivator Camp, Ice Peak Camp, and Scattered Forces combined occupied the other half. The Cultivator's foundation is set, Infinite Serpent Ancestor declared. They will surpass the Ice Peak Camp and become our greatest opponent. Even if the Ice Peak Camp possessed 12 undying existences and 26 progenitors, to the Heavenly Origin Camp, whose ranks now included over 120 progenitors, the Cultivator Camp represented the more serious threat. Countless skyborn mixed source lives will emerge, rising to world-level Hunyuan and even progenitors, Mother of Spacetime said. If we prioritize safeguarding every progenitor's life, the Cultivator Camp will find it far harder to kill a progenitor. For countless foreseeable years, we will remain the dominant force. Elsewhere, the Bloodlord, Cranelord, and Shadow Lord of Blood Crane territory watched the battle from afar. They bore a deep grudge against Luo Feng. Shadow Lord had led raids on the Cultivator territory before Luo Feng had forcibly refined Blood Crane territory and seized it. Now, seeing Luo Feng's newfound might, Bloodlord said worriedly, "Although our life-saving abilities are strong, Luo Feng is terrifying. If 5 or 6 Cultivator Lords surround us, they might kill us. We must align ourselves with a faction." Previously, they had relied on their powerful life-saving methods and were in no rush to join anyone. Now they agreed unanimously. The Heavenly Origin Camp was the strongest and had been inviting them. "They are mortal enemies of the Cultivator Camp and will protect us," Shadow Lord concurred. Soon, the three led Blood Crane territory to pledge allegiance to the Heavenly Origin Camp, which, newly focused on self-preservation, welcomed progenitors with strong life-saving abilities. Luo Feng himself did not know his blade strike had ushered in a new era. His unique strength over Xiaozhou had eroded the ordinary progenitor's sense of security. As individual upper limits rose, ordinary progenitors became more vulnerable. In the years ahead, progenitors would act with far greater caution. Even the mightiest of the Heavenly Origin Camp immediately adopted self-preservation first for their formations, revealing how acutely they read the danger. "Xiaozhou, thank you," Luo Feng said as he left the 27th floor. His figure, like a blade, sliced through space-time and appeared on the 28th floor of the Abyss of Destruction. Xiaozhou watched as 30 world messengers there unleashed their combined force. Xiaozhou and Xingmang had tried and failed to break this layer before, but Luo Feng, carrying blade light that could dispel all things, cut through the world messenger's defenses and left his life core imprint on the source shadow of the 28th floor. After gaining control of the 28th floor, Luo Feng did not press onward. He settled there to formulate a complete combat method founded on his Hunyuan Dao of the blade. In the initial land, the 7 Lord Avatars wore radiant smiles. "The era has changed," Xingmang murmured with a smile. Chapter 430, Luo Feng's Tactics. "I think 3,600 world clusters is far too few for our Cultivator Camp," said Naigu, the deep green-skinned 8 Lords. "We can take complete control of 8,000 world clusters." "Oh, Naigu, weren't you always the one saying we'd lose every war?" Deputy Palace Master Xingzhe, his golden scales and tail swaying slowly, chuckled. "Now you're the first to call for war?" "I've always believed strength should match territory," Naigu replied. Before Luo Feng appeared, our 7 Lords were indeed weaker. We couldn't even compete with the Ice Peak, much less the Heavenly Origin Camp. Back then, world cluster after world cluster fell. "It wasn't that we wanted war. The Heavenly Origin Camp tried to uproot us," Yuan said. "We had no choice but to fight." "I understand. It was because we were weak. Even if we had wanted compromise, the other side sought our annihilation," Naigu smiled. "But now it's different. Luo Feng has mastered 2 Hunyuan Dao, life and destruction, both exceptionally deadly in combat. As an 8 Lords, he's worth 2 Xiaozhaos alone. Our overall strength has already surpassed the Ice Peak Camp, and we can even threaten the Heavenly Origin Camp. The Heavenly Origin Camp holds 50% of the valuable territory in the limitless primal space. The Ice Peak Camp holds 20%, and we only hold 10%. That's a huge mismatch, Naigu continued. The limitless primal space includes many dark desert territories with negligible resources. The Heavenly Origin Camp's 50% refers to the valuable regions. Our 10% is the most densely populated 10% of source worlds, Wulan added. Even by source world count, we have far more than the Ice Peak Camp. Don't rush, Yuan said, and everyone fell silent. They still listened to him. My primal chaos rule Operation Tao is close to a breakthrough, Yuan said with a smile. Let us wait for my breakthrough before making decisions. Breakthrough? Ming Huang, Mo Man, Deputy Palace Master Xingjie, Wulan, and the others brightened. The 8 lords all understood how crucial Yuan was. In direct combat, Luo Feng was the fiercest. In space-time control and calculation, Xingmang excelled. But Yuan's formations could combine the Hunyuan Dao of each 8 lords into a battle formation that multiplied their strength. That was why he was indispensable. His breakthrough could make expansion far easier. How long will it take? Xingji pressed. Tens of thousands of epochs at the shortest, millions at the longest, Yuan replied. The 8 lords were delighted. An estimate meant Yuan had confidence. Tens of thousands to millions of epochs was insignificant to them. Then we'll wait, Ming Huang said. After Yuan breaks through, our overall strength will increase, and we'll meet far less resistance in expanding. Xingmang watched the scene unfold. Luo Feng has finally become the strongest direct combat existence in the limitless primal space, and elder brother Yuan is about to break through. Everything looks ideal, Xingmang thought. But over the very long run, the chance of a new 8 lords appearing is nil. Through countless future timelines, his many avatars had traveled and observed. None of the current world-level Hunyuan lives in the Cultivator camp had hope of becoming an 8 lords. The so-called invincible existences brought into the initial world and kept in the cage were, talent-wise, far inferior even to Naigu and Luo Feng. No hope there either. A 9th 8 lords was a distant dream. Because the camp has recently grown stronger, morale is high. Luo Feng even intercepted world-level Hunyuan that devoured source worlds. His ambitions must be huge, Xingmang sighed inwardly. But no matter how large the territory, once you conquer it, you must defend it. With only 8 lords, how much territory can be defended? He watched them unify against powerful outside enemies. These days of 8 lords standing united were precious. He cherished them. Beside the origin continent source world, within his secret blood crane territory, Luo Feng secluded himself to create battle methods. He needed to test moves. Testing in the abyss of destruction could pierce 2 or 3 layers of destruction worlds, and he needed secrecy. Inside a territory he controlled, there were no prying eyes. Boom! Terrifying destructive forces erupted deep within the Blood Crane territory. Great destructions tore through reality again and again, some surpassing the power of Luo Feng's old source Great Destruction that he'd unleashed during the camp war. Abandon flexibility, pursue extreme power, Luo Feng muttered. He intended to fuse the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao with the Hunyuan Dao of the blade to craft new battle methods. The first he wanted to recreate was the original source battle method that had once been so effective. Luo Feng's energy utilization had improved. A single unit of power now produced far greater destruction. Even the destruction from formations of 360 million source equaled his previous source Great Destruction. After repeated experiments, just over 300 epochs, the first original source battle method was perfected. It comprised 9 moves. The first 3 were standard killing moves, each executable every breath or 2. The remaining 6 were forbidden moves. Each detonated 1.08 billion source in different ways and left the user drastically weakened afterward. But their power was 3 to 4 times that of his old source Great Destruction. That old move had been near the limit of power in the limitless primal space. Shazo kills had only reached 70 to 80% of it, yet now these forbidden moves were multiple times stronger. In a group fight, I could take on a squad of ancestors, Luo Feng thought. The original source battle method was tailored for group battles. Time to start the next method. He then began the life-severing battle method. This method was silent and imperceptible. It did not sever matter or energy directly, but severed the profound life force itself. Its major flaw was that the upper limit of energy transmissible via life force was fixed. Luo Feng could only find ways to amplify the destructive effect of life-severing. Seemingly weak, in critical moments, it would prove miraculous. After a little over 200 epochs, the second method was finished. The third, Shadow Blade Technique. Like a shadow, it will strike without fail. To guarantee hits, the blade technique required precise control, limiting raw power. But it could be used at extreme range. Luo Feng could strike across several world clusters. Of course, the farther the target, the harder it was, and the less power the strike retained. Still, the technique's super large range offered many uses. Enemies would find it hard to escape his pursuit. The fourth, Destruction Blade Technique, close range. It doesn't pursue accuracy, it destroys everything nearby. At close range, hitting is trivial, full coverage is enough. Within a set radius, everything is annihilated. A wisp of fluctuation merged with the limitless primal space's general fluctuation stream, drifting through the ages and sensing the space. Suddenly, it registered a special fluctuation. The wisp coalesced into a tall, thin man in a black cloak. Mo Man, and 8 lords. He carefully studied the fluctuation, and his eyes brightened. Among countless fluctuations, this one was subtly different. Mo Man, master of the Hunyuan fluctuation Tao, understood its significance. It's finally here, Mo Man smiled. Luo Feng, the land of waves has appeared. We must leave immediately. He sent his voice across the distance. You can leave now, right? Inside the Blood Crane territory, Luo Feng had been in seclusion for over 900 epochs, during which he had completed the original source battle method, the life-severing battle method, the Shadow Blade technique, and the Destruction Blade technique. He was now working on the fifth, the Avatar battle method, but it remained unfinished. Of course I can leave, Luo Feng answered. He had already agreed to Mo Man's plan, and his battle method system was sufficiently complete. This would be a good opportunity to test it. Good, Mo Man said, delighted. Meet me at the Myriad Flame Mountains. They're relatively close to the Abyss of Destruction. I'll depart now. Luo Feng was decisive. His avatar in the 28th layer of the Abyss of Destruction absorbed energy to grow into a main battle avatar, took 2 suitable weapons, and set off. Over his travels through the Abyss of Destruction, he had accumulated 15 weapons, all around the level of the sky-rending blade. He could exchange destruction fruit for stronger arms on Destruction Mountain, but he wasn't in a hurry. He wanted to gather more fruit for even better treasures. Whoosh! Luo Feng's main battle avatar left the Abyss of Destruction and, aided by the Blood Crane territory, reached the Myriad Flame Mountains in a single day. The endless flaming peaks warped space, energy flowed like water, producing a strange, spectacular landscape. Among the fire-type mysterious lands discovered so far, the Wall of Fire Hell was the strongest, spanning roughly 100 world clusters. By comparison, the Myriad Flame Mountains were ordinary, comparable to the Blood Crane territory. The Land of Waves, I've never heard of it. Even Mo Man, who masters Hunyuan fluctuation, only discovers it perhaps once every 100,000 epochs, so it must be unusual, Luo Feng thought, curious. Luo Feng. Mo Man descended in his black cloak. Thank you for coming, he said with a smile. He'd always lacked a reliable partner like Luo Feng. With Luo Feng at his side, Mo Man could unleash the forbidden moves of his Hunyuan fluctuation Dao repeatedly, giving him hope of deeper exploration in the Land of Waves. It's nothing, Luo Feng replied, smiling. Where is the Land of Waves? Follow me. Mo Man smiled, sent a wisp of fluctuation that enveloped Luo Feng, and the two vanished. Chapter 431, Fluctuating Land. Chapter 428, Land of Waves. Mo Man led Luo Feng, moving as if they were waves themselves. How wonderful, Feng felt the novelty of it. It was different from traversing time and space or using shadow power to escape. From a spatial perspective, a single wave could instantly cover an immense distance. By linking waves across different territories, one could cross vast reaches in an instant. Among the 8 lords, Xing Mang was the swiftest and Mo Man the second. Xing Mang's method felt like leaping out of the limitless primal space and treating the vastness like a map. Yet the Infinite Great Serpent clan, by virtue of the infinite world, could descend anywhere in the limitless primal space at will, giving them unmatched travel efficiency. Even world-level infinite great serpents could descend anywhere. Their drawback was that the infinite world could only be used by their clan and could not carry other lives. The infinite world is truly special, Luo Feng admitted inwardly. With that enhancement, the infinite serpent ancestor could become virtually ethereal, immune to matter and energy. Luo Feng only had the severing life move that could injure an opponent, and even that had limits. Now that he had mastered the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao and the Hunyuan Dao of the blade, he hoped to find a mysterious land that suited him. Blood Crane territory was ordinary. Most mysterious lands refined by lords and progenitors were of that level. The infinite world counted as medium level, possessing numerous peculiar properties. Medium-level mysterious lands were the limit that most lords and progenitors could hope to control. The Eternal Land, Abyss of Destruction, and Wall of Fire Hell were recognized as the highest-level mysterious lands, beyond hope of refinement for most. Luo Feng only wanted a suitable, medium-level place. "We're almost there," Mo Man said suddenly. As they moved, Luo Feng began to sense faint waves. Even without deep understanding, he could feel their strength, already very great. The closer they got, the louder the waves became. Rumble. Their resonance grew until Luo Feng felt his soul stir. The land of waves affects the soul strongly. Guard your inner self, Mo Man warned. "I'm fine," Luo Feng replied. His soul consciousness system was integral to the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao. He trusted it. With that, Mo Man led Luo Feng in one final surge, and they arrived fully at the land of waves. Luo Feng stared in stunned silence. Giant waves had taken on physical form and converged here. Each wave produced thunderous sound and sent resonances through his soul. Hundreds, thousands of waves interwove, creating an astonishing symphony. No chaos marred it. Each massive crest combined perfectly into a grand composition. The spectacle surpassed the emotional intensity of Destruction Mountain. In a trance, Luo Feng saw the void stretching, time unfolding, source worlds like seeds gestating and being born. Mysterious lands formed and coalesced. He glimpsed countless beings, fragile source world lives, multitudes of skyborn mixed source life, and even some born as progenitors. "It's beautiful," he breathed. The symphony washed over him, purifying his soul. For a world-level Hunyuan life, the first note would shred their soul. Some progenitors with weaker souls might fall into deep slumber. Cultivator lords could resist it, and for those who could stand it, the music instead cleansed and elevated the soul. Luo Feng's soul will is extraordinary. He feels no pain, only great pleasure, Mo Man observed. He wasn't in a hurry to explore. He patiently let Luo Feng listen to the symphony. A day passed before Luo Feng surfaced from that dreamlike state and said apologetically, "I'm sorry to have kept you." "I asked you to come," Mo Man laughed. This time was nothing. "By the way, what did you think of the symphony?" "Incredible," Luo Feng replied. "It's the most incredible thing I've ever heard. If someone could reproduce this symphony, that power alone would make them a progenitor." He'd remained conscious through it all, though its beauty made him reluctant to awaken. That was why his immersion lasted a full day. "This is the symphony of the entire limitless primal space," Mo Man explained. Luo Feng looked puzzled. "Everything in the limitless primal space, time, space, all things, mysterious lands, even every life, has its own waves. Countless waves converge here and form the land of waves, and from that arises the symphony." Luo Feng understood then. This went far beyond a simple natural melody. "The waves are constantly changing," Mo Man continued. "Roughly every 100,000 eras, when the waves peak, the land will fully manifest for about one era. After that, as the waves shift, it hides again. Even when it's manifest, only I can perceive it and find it by following the waves." "It seems this place is tied to you," Luo Feng said with a smile. "I hope so," Mo Man replied, eyes bright as he gazed at the materialized sea of waves. "I've tried many times before, but never penetrated the land's depths. With Brother Luo Feng's help, I hope to reach its core." "I don't understand this land at all. Tell me what you need," Luo Feng said, looking out on the vast ripples. To him it was a world of waves. What was there to explore? "When I need an energy supply, Brother Luo Feng, give it everything you've got," Mo Man said. "Let's go in." "Where?" Luo Feng began, But before he could finish, Moman led the way. They transformed into waves and merged with a larger swell, following the symphony's currents and plunging deeper. The environment had become a labyrinth of waves. Luo Feng guessed one needed mastery of the Hunyuan Dao of waves to navigate it. As they went deeper, their speed slowed. Moman frowned and concentrated. I'm about to ignite my main combat avatar. Luo Feng, you must support me constantly to keep me at peak condition, he warned. No problem, Luo Feng said easily. Moman's small body held only about 1% of his own energy in reserve. Replenishing that was trivial for Luo Feng. Boom! Moman's aura flared as he ignited, forcefully influencing the surrounding waves. He became a wave source, manipulating the land's countless currents. The exertion consumed vast energy, but with Luo Feng's support, he dared to go all out. Ha! With greater power, the effect is far better, Moman laughed. Alone, he had to be frugal, but now he could unleash moves without holding back. He and Luo Feng pressed deeper, as if becoming part of the land itself, paving roads through mountains, building bridges over rivers. Whenever his might sufficed, the path smoothed. After a moment, a blur resolved before Luo Feng into a colossal egg-shaped object, pulsing as it expanded and contracted and emitting potent waves. Moman's face lit up. It's the first time I've seen this. He reached out. A phantom wave hand touched the membrane of the egg. The contact revealed the membrane's structure. Luo Feng, can you slice the membrane open with a single strike? Control the power. You mustn't harm the inside, Moman requested. All right. Luo Feng assessed the life force inside and judged the membrane's thickness. In one instant, his blade flashed. He poured the equivalent of 1/10 of his energy reserves into the strike, yet the blade was exquisitely restrained. No waste, no leakage. The light cut a silent crack in the membrane, and the split closed just enough for them to slip through. The force of the attack had been measured so precisely, nothing inside was harmed. Moman knew only Luo Feng could execute such a move. The strike's energy equaled 10 of Moman's bodies and carried the essence of 2 primordial Daos. Its precision was remarkable. Had Moman tried to do the same, he'd have needed many moves and still risked disturbing the interior. They slipped through the opening. In a few breaths, the membrane sealed itself behind them. Inside, they stood on a piece of land beneath a floating, stone-like heart that pulsed waves. Moman reached out, forming a great phantom wave hand to touch it, but the moment his hand met the surface, it silently dissolved. So strong, Moman said, astonished. Luo Feng stepped forward and sent a wisp of his creation and destruction power to probe the heart. Instantly, a crushing wave of power slammed into him, and an overwhelming pressure annihilated his force. So intense, he muttered. The heart's power felt like the source of the waves themselves. Only someone with an extremely high mastery of waves could attempt to study it. Its internal structure seemed united with the infinite mixed origin space as a single entity. Even a trace of the limitless primal space's power crushed him. He realized blunt force wouldn't work. The stone heart couldn't be handled by strength. It demanded gentle approach and comprehension. From its overwhelming strength, this heart was far stronger than a blood crane territory source. I estimate it's at least a medium-level mysterious land, Luo Feng concluded. That meant the difficulty of refining it was immense. Even with Luo Feng's help to reach the core, the refining process would rely almost entirely on Moman's efforts. Luo Feng thought, with a private nod of gratitude, of the old alliance leader, Venerable Su Xin, and the generous reward that had made this possible. Chapter 432, The 3 Poles Inside the Membrane Wall. Lord Moman was bent over the stone heart, absorbed in study. Luo Feng sat cross-legged nearby, helping guard it. He was curious about the stone heart, but no longer dared touch it with creation and destruction power. Instead, he sent only a wisp of thought to probe. I'll try to sense it. The instant his thought entered, terrifying fluctuations rolled out from the stone heart. Luo Feng could not make sense of them. The stone heart itself registered to his mind as an unfathomable density, far denser than any life form he had encountered. Not even Lord Wu Lan or an initial progenitor could compare. It isn't life or destruction, Luo Feng thought. I can't comprehend it. Unlike the corpse materials of progenitors, whose secret patterns were relatively stable and categorizable, the mystery in this stone heart kept shifting. If one didn't understand the path of waves, one could not perceive those changes. The threshold for comprehension was astonishingly high. Mo-Man had needed Luo Feng's help just to reach this place. That alone hinted at how extreme the threshold was. The more powerful a mysterious land, the more absurdly high the barrier to its core. In the Eternal Land, Luo Feng and the others could occupy seats but not see the core. For the Abyss of Destruction, only 3 had ever entered, and the actual core remained unknown. Control came only by passing 7 trials. The Wall of Fire Hell had been crossed by only the initial progenitor. Its core, too, remained unseen. Compared to those 3, being able to glimpse the core of the Land of Waves was already fortunate. Since he could not fathom the stone heart, Luo Feng stopped wasting effort and returned to his practice. He had already formed 4 battle techniques by combining the mixed origin life-extinguishing Dao and the Hunyuan Blade Dao. Now he focused on refining a 5th technique, the clone battle technique. The 2 of them should have entered the Land of Waves, he thought, then renewed his concentration. At a distance, Xing Mang, taking the form of a stern young man, watched. He could not peer into the Land of Waves, but Mo-Man had once asked for his help, and Xing Mang understood the land's periodic appearances. When he had accompanied Mo-Man before, his spatial temporal methods had been useless inside the Land of Waves, so his assistance had been limited. They had failed to reach the core. From what he knew, he judged the Land of Waves a medium-level, mysterious land. Some progenitors had secreted away methods. Whether Shazhou controlled a mysterious world, details about Hermit, or whether progenitor Pu Cheng had a mysterious world were hard to confirm. But from known information, only the infinite world controlled by the infinite serpent ancestor clearly ranked as a medium-level mysterious land. The infinite serpent ancestor's success had likely benefited from the infinite world's talent for nurturing life. World-level infinite great snake clan members could borrow its power to descend anywhere in limitless primal space and return. The infinite serpent ancestor was the first to control a medium-level mysterious land, Xing Mang mused. Who will be the second? Once Luo Feng's combat system matured, Xing Mang planned to ask him for help. With 2 Hunyuan Dao, Xing Mang had long been stalled. The ordinary mysterious land Time Star offered him little. A proper medium-level land would be invaluable. Epochs passed. Inside the membrane wall of the Land of Waves, Luo Feng suddenly noticed the membrane growing illusory. The countless enormous waves outside became insubstantial and began to fade. The fluctuations are weakening. Is the Land of Waves about to hide itself? He observed. The stone heart, once densely material, now seemed fragile and translucent. Its surface peeled away to reveal an interior, an incomparably dazzling point, or perhaps a wave. Is this the true face of the core? Luo Feng wondered and sent in a cautious wisp of thought. As the fluctuations waned, the stone heart's surface dissolved completely, and the core dot was exposed. His thought met no resistance and touched that point. Buzz! In that instant, Luo Feng's perception expanded. He saw the entire limitless primal space, but seen as waves. In this wave world, the source worlds were almost invisible, while some mysterious lands showed up as powerful, conspicuous disturbances. 3 vortexes stood out above all, 3 enormous, terrifying whirlpools of fluctuation. Luo Feng matched those vortices to what he knew of the terrain. One was the Abyss of Destruction, one the Eternal Land, and the third the Wall of Fire Hell. In the wave perspective, the Wall of Fire Hell radiated endless heat fluctuations, scorching and pervasive. It extended for hundreds of world clusters lengthwise, more than a world cluster across, and emitted supreme fire powers that spread into limitless space. Those heat fluctuations reached into source worlds and influenced the births of countless lives. The Wall of Fire Hell sends out endless heat, actively radiating outward, Luo Feng realized. The Abyss of Destruction, by contrast, consumed negative fluctuations, hatred, killing intent, unwillingness, resentment, siphoning those emotions and feeding on them. The Eternal Land appeared to balance the other 2. It modulated the extremes of heat and devouring, indirectly influencing many mysterious lands and numerous world clusters. Without the Eternal Land's stabilizing effect, energy storms would have torn through the limitless primal space long ago, preventing the existence of so many fragile lives. The Wall of Fire Hell, the abyss of destruction, and the eternal land. They're like three poles of the limitless primal space, Luo Feng thought. The wave vision had given him a deeper understanding of the whole. He resolved to pay particular attention to the abyss of destruction. Ideally, I should be able to pass the 7 trials and control the abyss of destruction, he mused. Of the 3 poles, the abyss offered the clearest avenue for him. Suddenly, the point, the wave, vanished. The land of waves folded up and disappeared. Luo Feng and Lord Mo Man found themselves returned to ordinary space-time. It's gone? Luo Feng felt a sting of loss. The glimpse of the land of waves core had deepened his understanding of the limitless primal space. Lord Mo Man smiled. Strictly speaking, when the waves peak, the land of waves is most condensed. When the waves fall, it disperses. At the trough, it would actually spread through the entire limitless primal space. So a tiny point, and yet able to extend everywhere, Luo Feng said, intrigued. A mysterious land that constantly changes is special, Lord Mo Man agreed. Luo Feng asked, Mo Man, can you refine it? Mo Man shook his head. Not yet, not strong enough. Even reaching the core hadn't given him the means to refine it. Luo Feng offered assistance. Mo Man said Luo Feng had already done more than enough. They departed together. As he walked away, Mo Man's cloak fluttered and his eyes grew deep. I finally know a path to refining it, he thought. For me, the simplest way is to grasp a highest-level world power. Hunyuan Path of Waves plus a world power. That was the most promising route. Having existed as waves across limitless primal space for countless epochs, Mo Man's understanding of the world was extreme. Comprehending a world power seemed the clearest path forward. To grasp a world power beyond the path of waves will be difficult, possibly billions of epochs, he accepted. Still, he resolved to pursue it. Once he did, and with the land of waves' blessing, his strength would surge. Then he could reach the very core alone, without Luo Feng's help. After leaving the land of waves, Luo Feng retreated into seclusion to finish his battle techniques. Over more than 100 epochs, he completed his 5th technique. In the 28th layer of the Abyss of Destruction, his aura climbed rapidly, matching the level of his primary combat clone. With 5 battle techniques, my combat system is complete, he thought. A couple more techniques might help, but not significantly. With 2 Hunyuan Dao and 5 mature battle techniques, he had hit a bottleneck. Further progress would be extremely hard. Xingmong faced the same stagnation. A 3rd Dao felt like a remote hope. Luo Feng remembered the wave vision. The Abyss of Destruction was one of the 3 poles of limitless primal space. He wondered if, with his current strength, he could reach the abyss's very bottom layer. Whoosh! With a step, he warped through space and descended into the deeper 29th layer. Chapter 433, Deep into the Abyss of Destruction. Luo Feng descended slowly, overlooking the 29th level destruction world. Before him stretched a semi-molten metallic landscape that glowed a dark, angry red. Most of the vast terrain had already liquefied and flowed like a sluggish sea. Only the surface and scattered patches had solidified into metallic crusts, like islands of metal in a boiling ocean. This 29th level destruction world is a rich mineral deposit. Luo Feng could feel how lethal the environment was, able to incinerate a world-level Hunyuan, but the remaining metal testified to extraordinary materials. He tried to gather them with a thought, but the metals acted as one integrated whole, impossible to pluck apart. The molten ground trembled. From deep within the flow, majestic forms emerged, half-molten and radiating terrifying auras. 20 of them climbed out and fixed their gaze on Luo Feng. 20 world messengers at this level? Luo Feng was surprised. He was the first to break through the 28th level. Nobody had ventured into the 29th, so there had been no intelligence about its environment or its inhabitants. He could sense the pattern. The outermost layers of the Abyss of Destruction started with thousands of world messengers. The deeper one went, the fewer the messengers, but the stronger each became. These 20 each had a presence comparable to progenitors. Suddenly, the 20 moved, each streaking forward like a bolt of light toward Luo Feng. Luo Feng released a thought, and his domain descended. In the past, his Sheng Mi domain had glowed faint cyan, specializing in bolstering allies' vitality and replenishing energy. Its threat to foes had been limited. Now, though, the domain shimmered with cyan and black braided together, a fusion of two Hunyuan Dao that amplified its destructive potency. It truly lived up to the name Shengmi Domain. This domain was part of Luo Feng's fifth battle method, the Avatar battle method. Every ounce of his power carried his spiritual consciousness like a weak avatar. When countless powers spread out to form a domain, it was as if innumerable avatars arranged themselves in formation. Shengmi, therefore, fell under the Avatar battle method system. Once the domain descended, it sealed the area, shielding Luo Feng's engagement from prying eyes. Word of this spread quickly among the distant observers. He's deployed a domain. We can't see in. Lord Luo Feng has closed his battle. When Luo Feng entered the 29th level, several progenitors had been watching from afar and passed the news along. In no time, over 100 progenitors had gathered to watch. The region below the 28th level was a deep mystery, and Luo Feng was the first to enter. Everyone wanted to see how powerful he truly was. Instead, he concealed his actions with his Shengmi domain. Lord Luo Feng is hiding his methods, murmured a veiled woman watching from a distance. She was progenitor Yunmu, unaffiliated with any major faction. She protected her own race and rarely meddled in disputes. Yunmu commanded the highest level of life force. She had mastered life to an astonishing degree, but remained comparatively weak in pure destruction. Her race had been devastated. 2/3 had been devoured in a tragedy that birthed her thirst for destructive power, and she had secretly been cultivating destruction force. He has greater achievements in life than I do, progenitor Yunmu observed, and he resembles me. His second power is destruction. I command creation and destruction at high levels, but he commands the two Hunyuan Dao of creation and destruction far stronger. She wanted to see his techniques as he challenged the abyss of destruction, but his domain hid everything. In another source world, a strange beast looked toward the abyss. Inside it resided a spiritual skyborn mixed source life, its life core fused with spiritual power and undying existence. Unlike Mogus, which devoured souls, this being drifted among the minds of countless beings, feeling their joys and sorrows, greed and anger. It had no interest in conflict. It never killed, and progenitors and lords had not detected its presence. Luo Feng sensed the 100+ prying forces and let his Shengmi domain absorb and repel them. He wanted to keep his battle techniques secret for future confrontations. He would not give them away so easily. After adapting to the 20 World Messengers' siege, Luo Feng cut them down with his blade technique, leaving his life imprint on each of their source shadows. With the 29th level under his control, he tried once more to harvest the precious mineral deposits. This time it was far easier. He collected the most valuable portion, about 1/10 of the world's material. The deeper you go in the abyss of destruction, the better the materials, Luo Feng noted with satisfaction. He moved on. When he reached the 30th level, he immediately deployed his world domain to envelop the entire level, shutting out all prying. Luo Feng is too stingy, some progenitors muttered. They resented that he closed off the world so thoroughly. The material composition, the number of world messengers, the world's special features, everything became invisible. Jin, watching from afar, laughed. He had long been curious about the deep abyss and didn't want those progenitors to see the secrets of its lower levels. Ming Huang nodded in agreement. Luo Feng explained that the deeper levels might contain abyss secrets. The progenitors' sharp eyes could piece them together if allowed to see. He planned to leave detailed intelligence in the initial land, available only to the lords. Among the 8 lords, after Luo Feng, Jin was most interested in the abyss, but his strength wasn't yet enough to delve into the destruction mountain. The abyss didn't care about doctrines. It only recognized raw mastery of destruction force. Among the more than 200 progenitors and lords, being in the top 20 was impressive, but the abyss demanded even more. The thresholds for its trials were brutal. As Luo Feng advanced, he shared observations aloud. The abyss of destruction starts with 3,000 world messengers on the first level. The deeper you go, the fewer messengers there are. The 29th level has 20. The 30th level only has 10 world messengers, and the 31st level only 5, he added. His main combat avatar had already left its imprint on the source shadow of the 31st level and had begun collecting that world's precious materials. Only 5 messengers? Yuan sounded surprised. I'm entering the 32nd level now. It only has 3 world messengers, Luo Feng said. On the 32nd level, there were indeed only 3, and these 3 were terrifying. In physical toughness, they rivaled Wulan and Ice Peak Ancestor. In explosive power, they approached Shazhou. 3 beings with Shazhou-level destructive force and nearly indestructible bodies swarmed him. The Shengmi domain's effectiveness waned. It had excelled from levels 29 to 31 because it could simultaneously target and restrain groups of enemies. But deeper down, the enemies were fewer and individually far stronger, and the domain's group-focused strengths were less decisive. The 32nd level's world was dim. Within the Shengmi domain, directions inverted and space-time convulsed, restraining the world messengers. Blurry blade shadows hung everywhere, forming a vast blade array that sought to suppress and annihilate them. One world messenger opened a mouth like a bottomless abyss and swallowed countless blade lights, weakening the formation. Another's body unwound into thread-like strands that coiled around the world and sought Luo Feng. Its soft flesh easily absorbed slashes. The last messenger charged directly at Luo Feng with world-shattering force. 1 against 3, each stronger than Shazhou, Luo Feng felt pressure. He drew on Blood Crane territory. His blood-red robes shifted unpredictably, and Shengmi lent him ubiquity within a small space. Terrifying blade lights hammered into the thread-like messenger, which had layered its body around the source shadow. Then Luo Feng unleashed a forbidden move from the original source battle method. With an earth-shattering explosion, a portion of the thread-like messenger's body shattered. A section of the messenger's source shadow was burned with his imprint. Success didn't require obliterating a world messenger, only breaking its obstruction and branding an imprint on its source shadow counted. Luo Feng heaved a breath. This is only the 32nd level, and it forced me to use the original source battle method, he murmured. The 3 world messengers calmed and returned to a docile state under his will, their source shadows bearing his mark. Chapter 431, The Very Bottom Layer. Luo Feng finally allowed himself to relax for a moment. The pressure from those 3 world messengers had indeed been immense. Even Xingmang and Shou had not broken past the 28th layer. Although Luo Feng was at the pinnacle of the limitless primal space in direct combat, by the 32nd layer, he had already begun relying on cunning methods. There were 2 ways to take control of a destruction world layer: defeat the world messenger outright and leave a mark on its source shadow, or use cunning to bypass the messenger's obstruction and imprint the mark clandestinely. On this layer, I'm at a disadvantage, he thought, so I must use cunning. What about the even harder 33rd layer? Luo Feng did not rush forward. He paused on the 32nd layer to refine his combat methods, fixing flaws revealed in previous fights. He even practiced against the 3 world messengers as sparring partners. After spending over an epoch and gathering the special products of the destruction world at this level, he finally pushed deeper to the 33rd layer. Lord Luo Feng has entered the 33rd layer, the progenitors and lords murmured from afar. They say the abyss of destruction actually has a 33rd layer. How many layers are there in total? From outside, when no life form probed it, the abyss of destruction below seemed like endless, unremarkable energy, calm and inscrutable. Only when Luo Feng broke through and the world messengers condensed did the layer's energy surge, allowing others a glimpse of its scenery. The moment he entered, Luo Feng cloaked the entire layer with his Shengmi domain, cutting off all prying eyes. On the 33rd layer, 2 titanic figures took shape. One resembled a giant god emperor in 7 or 8 parts, yet it was far larger. Scales of pure black covered its body, and a pair of scaled wings blotted out the sky, radiating terrifying might. The other was a colossal flaming bird. When it spread its wings, its flame domain consumed a third of the layer, forcefully burning through Luo Feng's Shengmi domain wherever the fire passed. Luo Feng recalled his deductions at Destruction Mountain. The destruction forces of these 33 layers were included among the 34 types of destruction force of the Destruction Mountain, and the world messengers here had dwindled to 2. Perhaps the abyss truly had 34 layers. These 2 world messengers projected even more terrifying auras. Each alone could rival him. One was dark and material, the other fire and energetic. The forms hinted at their respective fighting styles. The flaming bird was a domain made of flames. When these flames expanded, they became the strongest suppression, about 3 times the power of Luo Feng's Shengmi domain. Wherever its wings passed, his domain retreated steadily. Still, Luo Feng wore a blood-colored robe and maintained a protective layer that resisted the blaze. The dark-scaled messenger flexed its wings and lunged. A massive palm, as tall as Luo Feng himself, slammed down. Luo Feng braced with his body to feel the blow. His protective energy, his robe, his flesh and bones took the force. Only a thread of blood appeared on his skin. His energy loss was negligible. He analyzed the strike. Massive body, astonishing speed, strength comparable to his own. Under the flame domain's suppression, he was at a disadvantage. The dark messenger pursued relentlessly. Its size let it cover most of Luo Feng's body with a single movement. Luo Feng's blade light struck repeatedly, tearing the messenger's skin, but with the destruction world's continuous power, the wounds healed instantly. Under the flame domain, tendrils of flame formed snakes that coiled around his hands and feet, seeping into him. He felt shackled, as if fighting a pier while restrained. He attempted to bypass the dark messenger to reach the source shadow, but the flame domain made short-range omnipresence impossible. Whenever he tried to approach, the dark messenger intercepted him. In a one-on-one duel, Luo Feng's blood crane territory would grant him greater speed than the dark messenger, but this was effectively a 1-against-2. The flame domain slowed him so much that he couldn't outpace the dark messenger. Luo Feng split into 3 bodies. One clone retained 80% of his energy, the other 2 held 10% each. He sent them in to approach the source shadow. The dark messenger couldn't intercept all 3 at once without dispersing its strength too far, and Luo Feng could maintain a normal physical body with only 10% energy. The flaming bird's eyes flared, its flame domain contracted and consolidated. The small flame snakes binding Luo Feng thickened and tightened. The 2 weaker clones were annihilated outright, while the main clone endured, blade light erupting to shred the flame snakes, only for them to reform. Dozens of flame snakes wrapped around Luo Feng, each exuding terrifying power. His movement became slower than Wu Lan's. There was no other choice. Luo Feng transformed his physical body into energy and poured all of it into the 108 million primordial origins within him. Those primordial origins floated in the air and erupted. The Great Destruction annihilated 70 to 80% of the small flame snakes and halved the flame messenger's strength, but the destruction world's continuous power rapidly replenished it. With only 20% energy left, Luo Feng could not sustain the assault. He forced a breakthrough of the spatial temporal obstruction and retreated to the 32nd layer. Leaving was easy. Getting close to the source shadow had been nearly impossible. Has Luo Feng returned to the 32nd layer? The ancient being sensed. The 33rd layer has calmed again. Unable to peer inside, they speculated. Whether Luo Feng had failed or had succeeded and retreated to gather minerals, no one could tell. Still, having explored the 33rd layer at all meant he had control of the 32nd, a feat that made other progenitors and lords look up to him. After all, Shizhou had only made it to the 27th. Luo Feng's energy rapidly recovered. He frowned. Both world messengers could rival him, one specialized in close combat, the other in domains and binding, and they were continuously supplied by the destruction world, so energy depletion was not a concern. How could he deal with that? His sole advantage was the profundity of his methods. As he pondered, a plan took shape. He recovered to peak condition and stepped into the 33rd layer again, cloaking everything with his Shengmi domain. He drew his sky-rending blade and focused on the 2 towering world messengers forming in the distance. Then he acted. "Seal," he whispered. Blade light streaked from his fingers, 30 streaks that formed a lattice-like formation. The array isolated spacetime, cut off energy transmission, and sealed the area surrounding the dark messenger. Each blade light held 1% of Luo Feng's energy. The formation consumed 30% in total. It was the triple absolute blade formation from his clone combat method. 3 layered rings so that if one layer were breached, the other 2 still held. Luo Feng could continuously feed energy into it. This formation was designed to trap. The dark messenger, newly formed, blinked at the cage of blade light and lashed out. Its hoofclaw struck the formation, but the layered blade lights, suffused with life and spirituality, dispersed and softened the impact, withstanding it. The formation severed inside from out, isolating spacetime, cutting energy channels, even blocking karmic links. As the two world messengers condensed, the source shadow also appeared. Without hesitation, Luo Feng dashed for the source shadow. The flame domain swept to envelop him. Small flame snakes crawled over his body. He erupted with blade lights, hundreds of them, each blade striking a small flame snake, cutting and forcing continual reformations. The blade lights did not merely slash. They combined light and dark blades. His shadow blade technique guaranteed to lock and pursue a target until the target's energy was exhausted, while the life-severing blade light silently cut at the snake's life and spirituality. The flame snakes grew sluggish and were severed again and again. Their hindering strength waned. Protected by hundreds of blade lights, Luo Feng charged straight to the source shadow. The physically mighty dark messenger remained trapped by the triple absolute formation. Its furious assaults expended much of the array's energy, but could not break it. The flame messenger, though dominant in domain power, was weaker in direct confrontation. With its small snake suppressed, it couldn't prevent Luo Feng. He reached the source shadow and imprinted his mark. The moment the mark was set, both the dark messenger and the flaming bird stilled and returned to calm, submitting to his control. Luo Feng let out an inward breath of relief. These two world messengers each specialized in a single aspect of the layer's destruction force, and their specialization left exploitable flaws. His profound techniques had let him succeed despite being comparable in strength to both. He reflected on the 33 layers he had experienced. The first layer with 3,000 world messengers, down to these two. Each messenger had employed only a slice of its layer's world power, powerful, but still partial. If the gap in raw strength were absolute, even profound techniques would not suffice. His success now had come from method and subtlety. According to his deductions, the 34th layer should have only one world messenger, one that held all the abilities of its layer's world power. Luo Feng stepped into the next layer. All forces across the limitless primal space sensed the update. Luo Feng had passed the 33rd and entered the 34th layer. The 34th layer of the Abyss of Destruction was sealed in his Shengmi domain. The land itself was dark and solid, cohesive as a single entity, shrouded in a faint black mist, the materialization of endless resentment and hatred. Every stone, every surface, was a solid manifestation of those emotions. A single towering figure condensed from that hatred. Draped in a black hooded robe, its surface flowed with dark red light that seemed to carry the wails of countless lives. Its face was hidden beneath the hood as it regarded Luo Feng. Indeed, Luo Feng thought, only one world messenger. The hooded figure spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Ever since I was born, I have been waiting here. You are the first ultimate life to arrive. Chapter 435, The 7 Parts of the Abyss of Destruction. The very bottom layer? Luo Feng smiled to himself. Even for him, reaching the lowest layer, layer 34, brought a sense of achievement. After all, this was the Abyss of Destruction, one of the 3 poles of the limitless primal space. Among all the progenitors and lords, he was the first to arrive here. Are you the world messenger of this bottommost destruction world? He asked, not rushing into action, but curious. Encounters with a world messenger he could converse with were rare, and Luo Feng wanted to learn whatever secrets the Abyss of Destruction might yield. Yes, the cloaked figure replied with a smile. The world messengers of the previous 33 layers seemed to lack much intelligence, Luo Feng observed. Those earlier messengers had been driven more by instinct than by mind. They are not worthy of comparison, that the cloaked figure said. As for intelligence, whether skyborn mixed source life or you source world life forms, most have it. I was birthed by the Abyss of Destruction. Why would I be an exception? You know I'm a source world life? Luo Feng asked, surprised. The Abyss of Destruction gathers hatred, killing intent, resentment, and so on from all life. Through that, it can observe the ecology of the entire limitless primal space, the cloaked figure explained. I cannot leave the abyss by even half a step, but what I know may surpass what you know. Do the eternal land and the wall of fire hell, which are on the same level as the abyss of destruction, also produce intelligent beings? Luo Feng asked. Perhaps, the cloaked figure said. Luo Feng understood. The progenitors and lords knew almost nothing about those two places. Few had even glimpsed their cores. Even if intelligence had arisen there, the thresholds to meet them would be high. You may attack me now, the cloaked figure added. I am different from the messengers of the other 33 layers. Defeat me, and you will take control of the destruction world. Take control of the destruction world? Luo Feng's heart stirred. He had once entered the secret place, Destruction Mountain, and learned that passing 7 trials could grant control of the abyss of destruction. Now, this messenger said that defeating him would grant control of the destruction world. What is the difference between controlling the destruction world and controlling the abyss of destruction? Luo Feng asked. The abyss of destruction is divided into 7 parts, the cloaked figure said. The destruction world has the lowest threshold. Anyone can enter it directly and go deeper layer by layer. If you fight through the 34 layers of the destruction world, you can take charge of the destruction world. Its power is roughly 1/7 of the abyss of destruction. And the other 6 parts? Luo Feng asked. They all have entry thresholds, the cloaked figure replied. For example, the destruction mountain you entered is the core of the abyss. The mountain body itself contains 3 parts of the power. If you can pass the 6th trial among the 7 trials, you can obtain 1 part of the power. As for the rest, since you haven't encountered them, it would be improper for me to tell you. Luo Feng was secretly stunned. The destruction world accounted for 1 part. Destruction Mountain contained 3. Passing the 6th trial could grant another. 5 parts accounted for, 2 still unknown. The 7 parts may be controlled by different beings, the cloaked figure continued. However, if some supreme existence passes all 7 trials, he will master the entire abyss of destruction. Any powers you hold will be stripped away. Luo Feng understood. It was a matter of competition. If no single supreme being had yet mastered the abyss, several powerful figures might each hold portions of its power. Of course, the messenger added, so far no one has even fully mastered a single part. All right, now you know what you needed to know. The cloaked figure lifted his head. Take your stance. With that, his imposing form dissolved into an endless black mist. The dense blackness swallowed Luo Feng's Shengmi domain and immediately enveloped him. Whatever protections or powers a living being brought into this 34th layer, none from outside could pierce or observe it. Such oppressive pressure. Luo Feng's protective energy layer had the traits of undying and shadow, yet he still felt the crushing weight of the black mist. Under that suppression, his blood crane territory could not expand. He couldn't maneuver with shadow power. Without hesitation, Luo Feng drew his blade. In an instant, blinding blade lights erupted, packed, coordinated, and slashed forward in surging, wave-like motions that tore through the surrounding black mist. This was one of Luo Feng's 5 great battle methods, the destruction blade technique. It didn't focus on precision so much as extreme close-range annihilation. The force of your blade technique is impressive, a calm voice said. The black mist condensed, becoming black water that fell with crushing weight. Even Luo Feng's blade lights could only manage to cut through parts of it. As the water flowed, it pressed down, and the layers of blade light were forced to dissipate. Just a domain makes me unable to move an inch? Luo Feng frowned. The lords and progenitors outside, unless they teamed up, would not wield such intimidating power. Within him, 1,080 thousands and source shadows burned furiously. His physical body began to partially energize. Endless power surged out in an instant. Luo Feng and his sky-rending blade condensed into an ultra-dense blade light, the forbidden move of the destruction blade technique, Yi Dao Liang Duan, 1 cut, 2 segments. Severance power was the destruction force Luo Feng mastered first, and his spirit naturally aligned with it. In the Hunyuan Dao of the blade he had created, he had fashioned numerous severing moves. Without self-detonating, he burned 30% of his reserves in a flash to turn his whole being into a razor-condensed blade light, the limit of his energy control. If he burned more, such an enormous surge would leak. But this condensed blade light could cut through anything. A soft, clean tearing sound. Wherever the blade light passed, the black water split open. The condensed blade light leapt straight toward a source shadow. "This strike is powerful enough," a voice praised. Within the black water, a chain condensed, tough, solid, and blocked the blade light. The blade light sliced through and severed the chain. Luo Feng had meant the forbidden move to chop down enemies. Now he was using it to clear obstacles and reach the source shadow. But chains continued to condense, appearing anywhere in the layer. Whenever one broke, another would form in front of him. 34 chains could exist at once, but they appeared and vanished unpredictably, able to condense anywhere in this destruction world layer. They wrapped, intertwined, and kept surrounding him. After slashing through hundreds of chains, the terrifying blade light finally weakened. As its momentum waned, chains instantly bound him. In the blink of an eye, Luo Feng's true body was restrained. Boom! A monstrous explosion obliterated the 34 chains and a small pocket of the surrounding black water. But the blast's range was tiny. The destruction world's power surged back immediately, and the black water reformed, condensing 34 new chains. The forbidden move of the original source battle method only cleared such a small area? Luo Feng's body, still condensed from residual power, could only stagger and immediately traverse back to the 33rd layer before the black water closed over him again. Exhausted and with his strength greatly diminished, he couldn't continue the fight. On the 33rd layer, his reserves had fallen below 20% and were slowly recovering. The domain combined with the chains, my other battle methods, even the original source battle method, can only annihilate a small area, he thought, frowning. Only by transforming into blade light and using the forbidden move could I sever hundreds of chains and fly some distance. That was the farthest he could get, and as soon as the move weakened, he would be bound. What should he do? He still had a long way to go to reach the source shadow, and it was already this difficult. From his experience, the closer he neared the source shadow, the more frenzied the world messenger would become. The domain and the chains must only be part of this messenger's arsenal, Luo Feng reasoned. He understood the mysteries of this bottommost destruction force and could deduce some of the messenger's methods. If the dark and fire messengers of the 33rd layer had been comparable to him, the single world messenger of the 34th layer completely suppressed him. The gap was large. After considering his options for a moment, Luo Feng decided on another approach. "I'll go take another look at Destruction Mountain." He transported himself to Destruction Mountain, the hidden core of the abyss of destruction. The mountain was pitch black, its surface shrouded in ink-like mist. 34 bright lights, like stars, connected their radiance into a vein-like map across the mountain. "That messenger said Destruction Mountain contains 3 parts of the power," Luo Feng murmured. "From the surface, it has spawned countless weapons, destruction fruits, and other items. It possesses 34 types of destruction force and harbors endless negative emotions." His heart stirred as he studied the mountain. This meridian map, traced by the 34 types of destruction force, points the evolutionary direction for a life core on the path of destruction. Perhaps if a life core evolves far enough along this path, it can access the method for obtaining one of the 7 parts of the power. Among the 7 parts of the abyss, the destruction world might be the easiest to access. Any progenitor or lord could enter its outer layer. Luo Feng carefully observed and probed the area around Destruction Mountain. The only path up the mountain was blocked by 7 statues. Without challenging the 7 statues, there was no way to ascend. Chapter 436, Destroy the World. Luo Feng had examined the Destruction Mountain for a long time, but still hadn't found a way to draw any of the other powers from the abyss of destruction. As the highest-level mysterious place, even a fraction of the abyss's power carried an extremely strict screening threshold. "Forget the other 6 powers for now," he told himself. "First, I must seize the time to take control of the destruction world." He looked toward the 7 sculptures in the distance. The lowest-level world messenger was powerful, but Luo Feng was confident he could handle him. partly because he had not yet exchanged any treasures for destruction fruit on the destruction mountain. If he did exchange fruit, his strength could only increase. The more destruction fruit he possessed, the better the treasures he could obtain. Luo Feng approached the 7 sculptures. The 4th sculpture, a massive cuboid, began to stir. Its aura surged and instinctively locked onto him. He had been fortunate to defeat the 3rd sculpture before, but he had been crushed by the 4th last time. Since then, however, Luo Feng had comprehended the Hunyuan Dao of the blade, forged 5 great battle methods, and transformed himself completely. Where his combat power had once only matched Sha Zhou's, he now utterly surpassed him. Based on our last encounter, I should have the confidence to defeat the 4th sculpture this time. Luo Feng extended his hands, and streams of condensed blade light burst forth, falling around him. 50 massive blade lights surrounded him, each representing 1% of his energy reserves. Each blade light acted like a clone, forming an ultra-powerful destruction blade array. 5 directions creation and destruction reincarnation killing array. This was the strongest array Luo Feng could muster, the deadliest killing formation. Once it was activated, it isolated the interior from the outside. In an instant, the cuboid blurred into an afterimage and lunged to escape the array's range. Kill! Luo Feng's will pressed on the formation. The 5-direction array wound its blade lights around the massive cuboid. Those terrifyingly condensed blades, capable of cutting anything, began to split the cuboid into 125 smaller cuboids. Some blade lights severed the life force the abyss had given the sculpture, weakening it, while others pierced and ruptured its structure in overlapping patterns of creation and destruction, like interlocking gears grinding against one another. The cuboid could gather and disperse at will. Even if dozens of pieces were pierced, they could instantly reform into a whole and collide with the blade array, their impacts brutal. But Luo Feng had planned for that. If any one blade light were damaged, others would immediately take its place, and he would replenish them. The whole killing array breathed with continuous vitality, trapping, besieging, grinding. It could shred dozens of small cuboids to dust, and yet as long as one intact cuboid remained, the rest could recover. Even this killing array can't finish it? Luo Feng murmured, surprised. He retrieved the sky-rending blade and stepped into his own killing array. Rumble, Luo Feng struck. While the blade array constrained and chewed through the cuboid swarm, his close combat destruction blade technique surged out, fierce, concentrated blade lights that destroyed everything in their path. The narrow range of the array was perfect for the technique. Under their combined pressure, every one of the 125 cuboids shattered. As they exploded, the cuboid's shifting energy cores were affected. Every broken fragment collapsed into energy and shot back, recondensing into the original massive cuboid sculpture. The 7 sculptures in the distance remained motionless. Done, Luo Feng said with a slight smile. Had he failed, he would have had to combine the trapping array with an original source battle method. Instead, the killing array plus his destruction blade technique succeeded. Wielding 2 Hunyuan Dao of creation and destruction had nearly exhausted him, but he had won. He studied the remaining 3 sculptures. The trials were indeed brutally difficult. He moved on to the 5th sculpture, called Black Star. Though he tried, the outcome was unsurprising. He lost decisively. Luo Feng didn't mind. He would have been shocked had he won. It's time to exchange for treasures. He approached the destruction mountain and laid a hand on it. The mountain's influence struck his soul. Waves of hatred, killing intent, resentment, and many fragmented memory scenes crashed into him. He endured them calmly. Afterward, precise information resolved in his mind. He could choose 1 to 4 destruction fruits, or exchange them for treasures. If he traded 4 fruits, there were only 3 treasures available: the black robe, the black sphere, and a sharp blade. These were the strongest armaments the destruction mountain could nurture. The black robe, once worn, would fuse with the wearer and make the body nearly indestructible. An ancestor in such a robe would have a physique comparable to Wu Lan, or the Ice Peak ancestor. The black sphere could form a black water domain, a domain-level secret treasure with power comparable to the domain of a primal chaos beast ancestor. The sharp blade could take any form and possessed endless sharpness. able to cut through all matter and energy. Normally, at the same grade, domain treasures carried the greatest value, defensive treasures next, and weapons last. But the Destruction Mountain specialized in destruction. The blade's description, capable of cutting through all matter and energy, caught Luo Feng's attention. Considering his mastery of the Hunyuan Dao of the blade, this weapon was perfect. This is it. Luo Feng spent the 4 destruction fruits on the sharp blade. Boom. The Destruction Mountain trembled, and an overwhelming aura of destruction surged up. A blade formed within that aura and flew toward Luo Feng. It had no hilt, all 4 sides were edges, but with his will, the blade reshaped itself into the familiar form of his beloved Blood Shadow Blade. Holding it, Luo Feng felt like his younger self practicing blade techniques in the martial hall. "Blood Shadow Blade, may you accompany me in the long years ahead," he murmured. All treasures from the Destruction Mountain shared a weakness. They had to be carried. Whether an embryonic treasure exchanged for 3 fruits, or the strongest secret treasures from 4 fruits, or even Kafushu's battle armor from 1 fruit, they had to be borne on the person. In life or death struggle, a body could be shattered and a treasure stolen. With my blade technique and this Blood Shadow Blade, I can cut through anything, Luo Feng thought. Even if 100 ancestors tried to encircle me, I could force a way out. He decided to test the blade on the 34th level of the Abyss of Destruction. In an instant, he traversed space and left the Destruction Mountain. The 34th level, the lowest, was again wrapped in the Shengmi domain. The World Messenger reformed as a cloaked figure. "You've returned." The cloaked figure regarded Luo Feng and the Blood Shadow Blade in his hand. The messenger knew the weapon's nature. This blade carried extraordinary sharpness and required recognition by the Abyss to obtain. "I used the Destruction Mountain to acquire this weapon," Luo Feng said. "Good," the messenger replied, and transformed into billowing black mist that spread outward, condensing into black waters that pressed at Luo Feng from all sides. Luo Feng merged with his blade, becoming a concentrated blade light. At its tip gleamed the Blood Shadow Blade. Compared to their last clash, the resistance was far less. The black waters seemed to part willingly. The blade's innate ability to cut all matter and energy combined with Luo Feng's 2 Dao and 30% energy expenditure. Wherever the blade light swept, things split cleanly in half. Even the condensed chains snapped apart without sound. "Nothing it cannot cut," Luo Feng thought, amazed. He knew that splitting something in 2 wasn't automatically fatal to ancestors and overlords, but it was devastating nonetheless. A towering figure stood before him, the World Messenger's true form. The blade light flashed and pierced through that body. The World Messenger looked on in helpless resignation. Luo Feng's already fearsome strength, augmented by the sharp blade, was unstoppable. Transformed into the blade, he had already reached the source shadow. It had been too easy. When he chose the blade among the 3 treasures he could buy, part of his motive was to sharpen his specialty. The other part was to seize control of the destruction world. He had worried the domain treasure might be weaker than the World Messenger's domain and the robe only defensive. The blade, though, combined with his profound Dao, might do what he needed. In his elation, a fleeting thought crossed his mind. Could his blade cut the initial ancestor into 2? That thought imprinted on the source shadow. The moment it was planted, boom. Luo Feng perceived the Abyss of Destruction's true structure. He saw the outer layer, the real world of the 34 destruction levels, the easiest for ancestors and overlords to explore. He saw the inner layer, the spiritual world, the sea of destruction, where negative spiritual power from countless beings across the limitless primal space had accumulated into a terrifying, roiling sea. And at the very core, he saw the Destruction Mountain. At that moment, as the one who now controlled the outer destruction world, Luo Feng also sensed the various powers of the limitless primal space converging and stirring under his awareness. Chapter 437. More than 200,000 epochs. When Luo Feng had explored the land of waves with Lord Mo Man, he perceived the limitless primal space from the angle of waves. Now, viewing it from the Abyss of Destruction, his understanding changed again. The Abyss of Destruction, the Eternal Land, and the Wall of Fire Hell were the 3 great pillars of the limitless primal space. None could be missing. They did not oppose one another. They complemented each other. The wall of fire hell radiated an endless supply of energy into the limitless primal space, nurturing growth and birthing resources. The eternal land acted like a stabilizing needle, maintaining the space's equilibrium. The abyss of destruction devoured what was harmful, cleaning up the detritus of existence. All three existed to ensure the limitless primal space's continuous, eternal survival. Luo Feng sensed another duty of the abyss of destruction beyond consuming the most intense negative mental power, destruction. He felt the abyss had been quietly accumulating power. If the burden of living beings and their influence ever endangered the primal space's stability, the abyss could unleash that accumulated force in a single, catastrophic purge, sweeping across the entire limitless primal space. If that happened, 9 out of 10 skyborn mixed-source lives would likely perish. Among the progenitors, those who had not reached undying and unperishing might be reduced by more than half. Even resilient source worlds would likely be devastated. It was a form of self-purification by the limitless primal space, an extreme measure that would be taken only when the burden became unbearable. Since the space's birth, such an outbreak had never occurred. That was why a master of the abyss of destruction was so important. If the abyss had a master, the cleansing could be performed with far greater precision. Otherwise, releasing all of its accumulated power at once would be indiscriminate and catastrophic, and it would also damage the abyss itself. A master could borrow only a portion of the abyss's power when away from the abyss, using it to periodically prune the primal space in a controlled way. It would benefit both the abyss and the primal space. Because mastering the abyss was so difficult, there could be multiple candidates, no more than 7, for the abyss's power was divided into 7 portions. Candidates who attained a portion could periodically cleanse the primal space. Lesser forces would not even qualify. Luo Feng realized he was one of those candidates. He now controlled the 34th layer of the destruction world, but other progenitors and lords strong enough could fight their way down through the layers. If they defeated him and the world messenger on the 34th layer, they could seize control of it and the authority that came with it. Being the first occupier counted for a lot. Luo Feng had only been freed from the world messenger's obstruction after he obtained a weapon. Having mastered the destruction world, he stood above the world messenger. Any later challengers would have to face the combined forces of Luo Feng and the world messenger, an uphill battle. Yet his control was not absolute. He could not expel some hostile progenitors within the destruction world because his mark lay only on the source shadow of the 34th layer, a trace separated from the abyss's core. Only when he refined the core of the abyss of destruction could he truly be its master. He knew the next strongest contenders occupied the 26th and 27th layers. There was a significant gap between them and him. He wasn't overly pressured. Still, after understanding the abyss's secrets, Luo Feng resolved that he would not give another destruction fruit to Xia Zhou. She already had 2, and giving her 1 more might trigger a qualitative change in her life core. Cultivating a powerful adversary with his own hands was unacceptable. Promises among progenitors were fragile. Alliances could fracture when time and factional interest intervened. He recalled how good relations could sour. The Ice Peak camp's opportunistic invasions and tacit approvals of plunder were an example. Relying on anyone else was unreliable. Mountains fall, people run, Luo Feng thought. The most trustworthy thing is one's own strength. At the very bottom of the abyss of destruction, on land formed from condensed resentment and hatred, a cave mansion had appeared. A clone of Luo Feng had dwelled there for a long time, constantly sensing the abyss's power fluctuations. The future branched into countless possibilities. Some timelines collapsed, others extended. Starlight Lord kept many clones, each traveling through numerous timelines to observe future possibilities. When a world in a future timeline suddenly collapsed, that possibility had vanished. While observing, many of Starlight Lord's clones discovered something that shocked them. They could not see Luo Feng in any of the future timelines. Luo Feng should have been visible in many of them, given his influence. Previously, only Hermit's true body had been difficult to observe. Now Luo Feng was also obscured. Starlight Lord speculated that a special power was hiding Luo Feng's traces, perhaps some interference from the abyss itself. Luo Feng had been at the abyss's bottom recently. He could be mastering some of its power. Whatever the reason, he had undoubtedly grown stronger. Starlight Lord could only smile at the prospect. Soon after, Luo Feng left detailed intelligence in the initial land about the Abyss of Destruction. Yuan, Jin, Wulan, Minghuang, Naigu, Xingmang, and Mo Man all read it. The core points Luo Feng shared were clear. Mastering the Abyss required passing 7 trials and was extremely difficult. The Abyss's power was divided into 7 portions. The surface real world, the destruction world, held 1 portion, which Luo Feng now controlled. The inner mental realm, the Sea of Destruction, contained 2 portions. The core, the Destruction Mountain, contained 3 portions. 1 portion could also be obtained by passing the 6th trial. The other 6 portions remained masterless. Their thresholds were unknown. He hoped that if there were other candidates, they would be fellow lords. The news shocked the other 7 lords, and the 8 lords gathered in the initial land to discuss the implications. Mastering the surface destruction world was the easiest path, but even that required fighting down through 34 layers. Jin, who occupied only the 13th layer, shook his head. Simply possessing a Hunyuan Dao was not enough to attract the Abyss's attention. Luo Feng smiled and admitted he still had a long way to go. To master even 1 portion of the Abyss's power was fortunate. Being the first occupier gave him an advantage. Later challengers, even if similarly strong, would have a much harder time claiming a portion. Starlight Lord agreed that after Luo Feng's ascent, their previous plans to expand their territory had seemed too conservative. Ming Huang suggested letting Yuan break through first. Luo Feng nodded. Yuan's breakthrough would greatly increase the cultivator camp's overall strength. If Yuan's primal chaos rule operation Dao experienced another qualitative leap, the 8 lords could coordinate even more perfectly, enhancing their combat power significantly and smoothing the path for Luo Feng's plans. So they waited for Brother Yuan. Yuan chuckled and secluded himself again. Time passed. More than 200,000 epochs slipped by, and Yuan remained in seclusion. For Yuan, it was not a long time. For Luo Feng, it had taken less than 20,000 epochs to rise from an eternal true god to become one of the leading experts in the limitless primal space. Back on Luo Feng's homeworld, the origin continent had grown vast. It now contained 360,000 large and small chaos states. A true god's lifespan was only about 30,000 epochs, so 200,000 epochs was more than enough time for the continent to breed countless beings and for previously barren lands to flourish with new cities. In one such city, the main city of Zhen Kanchao State, Marquis Zhen Kui, the Chaos State's lord, was enjoying a sumptuous meal, served to him with utmost attention. He still felt he had struck gold. By leaving behind a legacy tied to the Duandong He lineage, he had altered the fate of all 192 generations of that line. They had all been resurrected. The Duandong He had always been a single-line transmission, but now generations who once lived centuries apart existed in the same era. To Zhenkei's astonishment, the 193rd generation of Duandong He turned out to be Lord Luo Feng, and the legacy he had left was instrumental. Among the resurrected, only the 3rd generation patriarch and the 192nd generation Duandong He Zhen Kui, received special favor from Luo Feng. The 3rd generation patriarch's legacy had greatly aided Luo Feng, and the 192nd generation had the grace of imparting the Tao. The other generations received cultivation resources and the chance to forge their own paths. Even those few resources excited the earlier generations. The 192nd generation, Zhen Kui, had been granted a chaos state as a fief. In today's origin continent, even a god king had to undergo multiple reviews to obtain such a grant. With those resources, Zhen Kui stepped into the chaos realm. The 3rd generation patriarch, God King Juyi, received a fiefdom too, along with a cave mansion in Galaxy Capital and numerous treasures. The Duandong He line ends with Lord Luo Feng, Zhen Kui reflected. He was the 192nd generation, Luo Feng the 193rd. There would be no more after that. Although scattered across the continent, the Duandong He shared lineage and would stay in contact and occasionally gather. Over 200,000 epochs, 5 god kings had arisen among the 192 generations. The Duandong-He lineage had become a formidable force on the origin continent. Chapter 438, Yuan's Breakthrough Infinite World. The first world born in the limitless primal space had a sky studded with countless clouds, each one a source world, so many they seemed endless. The surface, however, was a black, boundless expanse of soil. Buried in that soil, countless small serpents of the infinite Great Serpent clan were nurtured. They would rear up from the earth and peer through the void to watch every corner of the limitless primal space. That Luo Feng is too domineering. As soon as anyone dares to devour a source world, he cleaves them with a single saber. My sister secretly devoured a source world, thinking she could slip back to infinite world before he arrived. Who would have thought that even with a distance of a world cluster or two, she was cleaved to death by one of his clones? These small snakes were all world-level Hunyuan members of the infinite Great Serpent clan. For them, the most prized resource was source world origin. For a world-level Hunyuan life to devour origin was the most beneficial. They resented Luo Feng bitterly, but they could do nothing. As the largest clan within the largest camp, the infinite Great Serpent clan had once been supremely arrogant, but in the face of Luo Feng, they wanted only to hide. Even being several world clusters away didn't feel safe. I heard Emberfire Ancestor went to reason with him, and Luo Feng cleaved Emberfire Ancestor's true body in half. Now no one dares to negotiate. After all, he occupies the 34th layer of the Abyss of Destruction. His strength far surpasses any ancestor. The infinite Great Serpents prided themselves on their ancestor-level powers, the infinite Serpent Ancestor and more than 10 other progenitors, but they understood that even if they all joined together, they probably couldn't defeat Luo Feng. He was just too strong. With a single saber strike, he had severely wounded the undying Emberfire Ancestor. Who could challenge him? For over 200,000 eras, anyone who devoured a source world had been hunted by Luo Feng. Some discontented progenitors whispered among themselves, but no one dared start a war. 200,000 eras was a mere cultivation session for a progenitor. They could afford patience. If Luo Feng were only at the 28th layer of the Abyss of Destruction, a coalition might have formed long ago. At the 34th layer, even progenitors were wary. No one wanted to be the first to act. Let others test him. They could still endure. Endless blood-colored waves rolled across the mysterious region that had once been called Blood Crane Territory, now renamed Galaxy Territory. In that solitary realm, Luo Feng practiced, brilliant saber light streaking across the vast crimson waters. With his current strength, any move could unleash terrifying power. Only in such a place could he fully release himself. On an island in the Galaxy Territory, Luo Feng sat cross-legged in a black robe. That robe had been woven from the world power of destruction and the world power of Blood Crane Territory, primarily black with red filaments tracing patterns. 30% of its makeup was the Blood Crane world power and 70% destruction. The Blood Crane power brought undying and shadow-like qualities useful for movement and defense, while the destruction power focused on annihilation. Comprehending the third Hunyuan Dao is truly difficult, Luo Feng murmured, a trace of helplessness at his brow. Although his combat power was unmatched in the limitless primal space, he had hit a bottleneck. 200,000 eras of cultivation did not tire him. Time was like a cup of tea to an immortal, but progress had slowed. Besides creation and destruction, I only have a slight talent for the path of material. Luo Feng had chosen to spend countless years on the path of material. Even with endless life, one needed goals. He had acquired the keenest weapon and wielded the destruction world to barely defeat the fifth statue. To fully defeat the seven lords, he suspected he would need mastery of 3 Hunyuan Dao. Luo Feng wasn't certain how those progenitors who followed the life core path passed the 7 trials, but for lords who comprehended Hunyuan Dao, mastering 3 Dao, and even then needing some external aid, seemed necessary to have a chance. The 3rd Dao, the path of material. He had painstakingly traced its branches, manifesting tens of millions of avatars with a thought and sending them into source worlds that contained aspects of the path of material to study and comprehend. After over 200,000 eras, He had finally mapped all the branches and begun attempting to fuse them. That had moved him into the God King's second realm. To integrate all branches into a complete path of material, that was the God King ultimate realm. The first stage was the easiest because Source World Origin provided reference. The second stage was groping in the dark to half-step Hunyuan. The third stage, from half-step Hunyuan to a Hunyuan-level path of material, was 1,000,000,000 times harder than the first two. After 200,000 eras, he was still in the first stage, only now at God King's second realm. No wonder Ming Huang, Jin, Wu Lan, and the others, each trying to comprehend a second Hunyuan Dao, hit such slow progress. I understand now, he smiled faintly. He wasn't impatient, he had long prepared himself mentally for this struggle. Time was a sorcery of its own. Over endless ages, progenitors and lords alike inched forward. Progress might seem glacial, but what was 200 million eras, 200 trillion eras, or more? In the initial land, his first mysterious land within the cultivator camp, which he had contributed to as a foundation, he had planted seeds for the camp's future. After endless cultivation, today I have finally taken a step. Yuan opened his eyes, joy radiating through him. My primal chaos rule operation Dao is complete. From now on, I only need to embellish and expand it. The primal chaos rule operation Dao outwardly governed rule operations, but inwardly required constructing an origin. He had long envisioned it, but progress had been slow. Luo Feng's origin system, the mixed origin life extinguishment Dao, had solved many problems for him. Yuan's momentum had been like a broken stalk of bamboo, and after over 200,000 eras, he finally fully comprehended his own origin system. Once integrated into the primal chaos rule operation Dao, it was complete. From here on, he would only need to refine and adorn it. Big Sister Shou, in terms of strength, I'm probably no weaker than you now, Yuan thought. He had long been a step behind Xiaozhou, but after this breakthrough, though he still favored formations over direct combat, he believed he could hold his own against her. I have broken through. Yuan immediately sent the news to the other 7 lords. Broken through? Naigu, Wu Lan, Luo Feng, Ming Huang, and the others rejoiced. They had been waiting for this. Yuan's breakthrough would strengthen the cultivator camp. Luo Feng's strength was individual. Yuan's was the power of formations, a force multiplier for the lords in combined operations, critical in camp warfare. In the initial Lands Council Hall, 8 figures sat around a round table carved from dark realm crystal. Elder Brother Yuan, how strong are you now? Lord Moman asked, and the others turned to Yuan. I'm not great at direct combat, Yuan said with a smile, but I'm probably on par with Shizhou and Xingmang. Xingmang shot him a hot look. Not good at combat and only on par with me. Ha! Wulan, Jin, Minghuang, Moman, Naigu, and the rest laughed, though privately they envied him. They had cultivated for so long and still had far to go before any qualitative leap. Luo Feng watched and smiled. Compared to other camps, the cultivator camp had one advantage, unity. I've cultivated the longest, Yuan said, looking at his companions. When your cultivation time matches mine, I believe you will also break through. I hope so, Yuan, Jin sighed. I'm the second oldest among the 8 lords. I hope to break through soon. Xingmang grinned. Let's discuss our next move. With Elder Brother Yuan's breakthrough, our overall strength has increased. It's time to expand our territory and protect more source worlds. For the past 200,000 eras, Luo Feng has hunted anyone who devours source worlds, Naigu said. That has shocked the skyborn mixed source life, but progenitors can endure for a while. Eventually it will erupt. The best course is to occupy a large territory entirely. Let those source worlds nominally belong to us, so the skyborn will give up. Which territories should we take? Wulan asked. The prime ones are mostly held by the Heavenly Origin Camp and the Ice Peak Camp. Taking them would make enemies of both. With Luo Feng here and Yuan commanding formations, would the Ice Peak Camp dare to fight us? Jin countered. Our strength can suppress them. We should seize an even greater expanse, aim for at least 8,000 world clusters. 8,000 would be a stretch, Moman frowned. Our 3,600 world clusters are the densest. Other regions are sparser. Expanding to 6,000 would be more realistic. 8,000 would put too much pressure on us and mean controlling nearly half the territory, Ming Huang added. The current 3,600 world clusters were about 10% of the total, concentrated in the densest sector. 8,000 would be almost half. Too ambitious. We have too few lords, Xingmang said. Even if we seized it, we couldn't defend it. It would force the Ice Peak and Heavenly Origin camps to unite against us. I think 5,000 world clusters is enough, Luo Feng said suddenly. The 7 lords turned to him. With his strength, his words carried weight in the camp. 5,000 world clusters? Jin frowned. Isn't that too few? It is a bit small, Xingmang agreed. Luo Feng continued. So then, the Heavenly Origin camp, the Ice Peak camp, and other forces, if we are to expand, must hand over all source worlds within the territories we claim and allow us to govern them. All the source worlds? Yuan's eyes lit up. That was exactly his ultimate aim. The other lords held their breath. This was a major opportunity. Chapter 439. Action. I agree. Minghuang's eyes shone. We were too timid before. With our present strength, we can take every source world in the limitless primal space. Luo Feng nodded. Source worlds are our priority, but Skyborn mixed source life care about all kinds of evolutionary resources. Source worlds are only one category. Wulan laughed. Those Skyborn mixed source races are diverse. Many of them don't value source worlds highly. If we only go after source worlds and leave other resources alone, a lot of those races won't fight us to the death. That would reduce their hostility, Yuan agreed. Splitting the enemy was prudent. If the lords expanded too aggressively, seizing every resource in a huge swath of territory, including source worlds, it could drive many progenitors to unite. The Heavenly Origin camp and the Ice Peak camp, plus several smaller forces, might all band together. If they only demanded source worlds, however, most races that didn't need them wouldn't go all out. We lords focus on comprehending the Tao, Luo Feng added. Most of those resources matter little to us. Making the entire universe our enemy for them would be unnecessary. There are still undying existences to consider. If they pushed too far, the undying would lash out, and the cultivator camp might not be able to withstand that whole-scale retaliation. Xingmang brought up a space-time net map of the limitless primal space and outlined a contiguous territory roughly comparable to the cultivator camp's current range. Do you mean occupying all of this, over 5,000 world clusters? He asked. Luo Feng shook his head. This sector has 1,600 world clusters. In terms of cluster density, it's second only to our current holdings. If we take this area, we'll control 2/10 of the valuable territory in the limitless primal space. That should be enough for future generations of the cultivator camp. The other lords nodded. Xingmang studied the map. A space-time net could barely be deployed here, but it's much harder than what we currently have, he said. The 1,600 cluster region contained vast stretches of barren dark region, which made the net much more difficult to establish than in their present territory of 3,600 world clusters. This territory must be occupied, Yuan said. We have to be a credible threat to the Heavenly Origin camp. If they refuse to hand over all the source worlds, we'll keep expanding. Xingmang smiled. They'll probably prefer to hand over the source worlds, but the Infinite Great Serpent clan will resist. For them, those source worlds are crucial. Moman shrugged. As long as the Skyborn mixed source races are divided internally, a single clan's resistance won't stop us. First, we take the 1,600 world clusters to intimidate the Heavenly Origin camp and the other forces, Yuan proposed. Then we negotiate. We stop expanding in exchange for all the source worlds. He looked around. Do you all agree? Agree. Agree. Jin, Wulan, Minghuang, Naigu, Xingmang, Moman, Luo Feng, 7 of them, gave their assent. The plan was clear. Seize 2/10 of the territory outright, then claim governmental control over the source worlds in the remaining regions. The 8 lords felt that would be sufficient. Xingmang, refine the plan, Yuan said. Once it's finalized, we start the operation. Understood. Xingmang would run countless possible scenarios and choose the most likely path to success. Let's drill our coordination first, Yuan suggested. I need to set up a few formations suited to everyone. I've been waiting to see how powerful you and Yuan have become. Wulan chuckled. Let's begin. The 8 lords, using weak combat clones that each had only 1/10 of their energy reserves, performed coordinated exercises in the initial land. The initial land was a mysterious realm that could not withstand full-strength practice from the Lord's main clones, so they used the weaker replicas. Even so, the display astonished the other attendees. Luo Feng's strength stunned them. Yuan's formations had reached a new level of perfection, allowing the camp to make much better use of its combined power. Confidence among the lords soared. Meanwhile, in the abyss of destruction, events were stirring. The Ice Peak ancestor, towering like a glacial mountain on the 20th level, noticed Yuan suddenly pass upward from the 19th level into his domain and watched him go with mild surprise. "Brother Yuan?" Ice Peak ancestor queried. He wondered if Yuan meant to challenge him. "Just passing through," Yuan replied with a faint smile and continued onward. Infinite Serpent ancestor on the 21st level and Moshu on the 22nd both spotted Yuan hurrying by into deeper strata. A number of progenitors across the limitless primal space began to take note. Levels 23 through 25 of the Abyss were unclaimed, and any arrival there attracted attack from world messengers. But Yuan's formation enveloped him in all directions. Even when world messengers attempted to strike, their assaults were diverted, lost inside the formation's weave. Yuan breezed through the 23rd and 24th levels and left his mark on the source shadow at the 25th level. Shock rippled among the progenitors. Historically, Luo Feng alone held the 34th level. Shazhou and Xingmang occupied the 27th and 26th levels respectively, forming a powerful second tier. Moshu, Infinite Serpent Ancestor, Ice Peak, and Yuan had all been placed at lower levels. Now Yuan suddenly claimed the 25th level with apparent ease, without showing his full power. Among the top 4 in direct combat in the limitless primal space, 3 are from the Cultivator camp, murmured more than one watcher. The advantage of mastering the Hunyuan Dao was obvious, and it made other progenitors uneasy. The limitless primal space counted over 200 progenitors, but only 8 of those were lords. Once someone became an undying lord, their direct combat capability was terrifying. The disparity between individual strength and numbers was stark. On the 27th level, Shazhou saw a familiar newcomer arrive. "Sister Shao," Yuan greeted with a smile. "I didn't expect you to catch up to me," Shazhou replied, interest showing in her eyes. "Come, show me what you've got." They clashed. The battle drew distant watchers from many camps. Shazhou still radiated a terrifying might that made the heavens tremble, but Yuan's layered formations acted like heaven and earth, absorbing and redirecting assaults while enabling precise counterattacks. Their duel ended in a draw. Shazhou could not break Yuan's defenses, and Yuan's strikes could not seriously wound Shazhou. After the fight, Shao sent Yuan a private message. "Did Luo Feng tell you about the destruction fruit?" Yuan was taken aback. He had learned of the destruction fruit from the intelligence Luo Feng provided, but he had not known that Shazhou had once sought it. Yuan contacted Luo Feng quickly and learned the full context. He relayed what he had heard. "Sister Shazhou, are you committing to the Cultivator camp? Will you follow us in everything, even if it means making enemies of the Ice Peak ancestor and other skyborn mixed-source progenitors?" "I didn't say I'd join," Shazhou replied. "I said I'd fully support you. I can help you deal with the Heavenly Origin camp. Even if the Ice Peak camp opposes you, I can remain neutral." Yuan knew Shazhou's nature, cold, ruthless, and single-minded. Even if she obtained one destruction fruit, she would still want another. She would not serve anyone forever for a single boon. He told Xingmang his concern. Xingmang agreed. Shazhou's ambitions could not be counted on forever. Luo Feng had indeed taken control of the destruction world and defeated the 5th statue, but he had exchanged a destruction fruit for a treasure, making Shazhou's plans uncertain. She had hoped Luo Feng might still possess a destruction fruit, but now that hope dimmed. Back in the initial land, the 8 lords gathered their main combat clones. Shazhou mentioned the destruction fruit to Luo Feng, then to me, Yuan said, frowning. "She covets it." "Don't let emotion cloud your judgment," Xingmang warned. "Shazhou is ruthless. If she obtains one destruction fruit, she'll still want more. She won't commit herself forever." Luo Feng listened in silence. He had no intention of cultivating Shazhou into a long-term rival. Their current operation would face many progenitors and several undying existences. Shazhou could be left out of long-term plans. Then let's set off, Yuan said. First, we take the 1600 world clusters. Luo Feng, you'll need to be ruthless. Cut down those progenitors like you cut me in practice, Wulan teased, remembering their earlier sparring when he'd sliced her apart with his blade technique. Don't worry, Luo Feng replied, his killing intent simmering. He had held back in previous matches and had never unleashed his full might since acquiring the Destruction World. This campaign would be different. He could fight without restraint. This will be very interesting, Moman said, smiling. Jin's fighting spirit flared, Minghuang smirked, and Naigu's eyes glinted with bloodlust. Starlight Lord unfolded his power over space-time and bore Yuan, Jin, Wulan, Minghuang, Naigu, Moman, and Luo Feng. Together, the 8 lords departed the initial land, heading straight for their target territory. Chapter 440, Occupying the Southern River Territory Infinite World. A colossal serpent coalesced in the clouds, the infinite serpent ancestor. He probed the cultivator camp's activity from afar, all 8 lords moving together. A cold premonition tightened in him. Among the 8 lords, Yuan, Xingmang, Moman, and Luo Feng could mask all fluctuations of life aura, but Wu Lan, Jin, Minghuang, and Naigu could not. In the limitless primal space, over 90% of progenitors could not completely hide their presences. Once all 8 moved as one, it would attract attention. This time, to intimidate the entire plane, Luo Feng and Yuan hadn't even bothered to conceal their auras. The 8 lords are acting together? What are they planning? Every major force went on high alert. The weakest of the 8 lords ranked among the top 20 combatants in the space. The strongest stood apart in a class of his own. Their combined might could easily suppress the Ice Peak camp's 12 undying entities and 26 progenitors combined. They made no attempt at stealth, allowing everyone to see them as they strode grandly toward their target. Led by Xingmang, they traveled for roughly a day. We've arrived. They stopped at the border of a vast region, the Southern River Territory, 1,600 world clusters. Our cultivator camp claims it, Yuan's voice boomed, projected to every progenitor inside the 1,600 world clusters. You have to relocate immediately. If you refuse to leave, we will have no choice but to enforce our claim. Most of the limitless primal space was barren. Resources were scattered and sparse. The Southern River Territory was different, shaped like a heart, home to roughly 1,600 world clusters. In terms of world cluster density, it ranked second only to the cultivator's birthlands. Beyond it lay an enormous wasteland. The prosperous Southern River Territory sustained 29 progenitors and countless members of the Heavenly Origin Camp who had long relied on its abundant source worlds. Lord Luo Feng's interceptions in recent years had only temporarily slowed their exploitation. What? The cultivator camp wants the entire Southern River Territory? They expect us to move out now? The progenitors and world-level Hunyuan life forms throughout the territory were stunned. Whether in true form or as avatars, they were shaken. Anyone who hasn't started migrating within 1 day will be killed without mercy. Anyone remaining after 20 days will be killed without mercy. Yuan's icy ultimatum reverberated through the minds of the 29 progenitors and over 230,000 world-level Hunyuan life forms. The threat from the 8 lords terrified them. How could they possibly resist that level of force? The progenitors reported to the 9 emperors and began organizing immediate evacuations. The 8 lords demanded relocation within a day. That was almost impossible for many long-established settlements. Mines, cultivation grounds, and settlements had to be abandoned. Dispersed clans scrambled to regroup. World-level Hunyuan beings could still flee and reunite, but high-level origin life moved too slowly to gather kin in time. From the void, the 8 lords stood as a dark monument of power. Then avatars descended, avatars of the Heavenly Origin Camp's 9 emperors, all assembled. Yuan, what are the cultivator camp doing? The Southern River Territory belongs to us, the infinite serpent ancestor thundered. Ha, Yuan replied with a hard laugh. You invaded our cultivator territory, slaughtered indiscriminately, devoured source worlds. Why shouldn't we take what we need? You've gone too far, the giant god emperor roared. The Southern River Territory holds a full 1,600 world clusters. Are you going to seize them all? We have over 100 progenitors. You only have 8 lords. You don't need this much. 3,600 world clusters should be enough, the limitless ancestor snapped. Who said lords don't need resources? Wulan scoffed. By your logic, you can occupy half the space while the cultivator camp gets a tenth? Looks like we'll have to fight, the annihilation ancestor said coldly. Luo Feng's tone was calm but unyielding. This southern river territory is only the beginning. With our current strength and potential, taking 20% of the limitless primal space is still too little. Just the beginning? You want more? The 9 emperors were shocked and furious. Starlight Lord cut through the bickering with a gesture, annihilating the 9 emperors' avatars in an instant. The avatars' sudden destruction stung. These lords were brazen. A battle is inevitable, Yuan said softly. Their original plan was to secure 20% of the space and control all source worlds within the contested regions. Words alone would not do. The cultivator camp needed to demonstrate force, enough to sway negotiations in their favor against the Heavenly Origin camp, the Ice Peak camp, and many lesser factions. We must show our strength. That will make the rest fall in line, Xingmang said. The Heavenly Origin camp will prioritize defense over offense, Xingmang warned, making them harder to dislodge. They have progenitors skilled in life defense, domain, undying, and world-sealing powers. If they form a core defensive formation, their survivability skyrockets. In the past, they relied on overwhelming numbers and scorned defensive arrays, Moman observed. They made us cautious, forced us to defend. Even so, we kept losing world clusters. Fortunately, the lords were undying. Even if a world cluster fell, they could recover and return. Even when they scorned defenses, killing a progenitor wasn't easy, Jin admitted. Now things are different. All eyes turned to Luo Feng. Luo Feng, we'll be counting on you, Ming Huang said with a smile. In their past sparring, they'd all seen what his blade could do, nothing it could not sever or overcome. His power transcends limits. They can't see his future, Xingmang added. He admitted no one could accurately peer into Luo Feng's fate. At best, they could infer some possibilities from his influence on countless future timelines. This battle would need surprises. Luo Feng understood they needed to not only challenge the Heavenly Origin camp, but to intimidate every other force as well. He would coordinate with the formation and unleash his full strength. Inside the Southern River territory, panic reigned. A world-level Hunyuan being that carried high-level origin life within its surface worlds was racing to gather kin. I've only gathered 70% of my high-level origin life. There's no time, it thought, tearing open a space-time corridor. I have to link up with my progenitor. If I'm late, Lord Luo Feng could cleave me from afar. Others rushed as well. Border clans had slightly more time, but core settlements faced unbearable pressure. Some begged their progenitors, "Can we resist? Are we just going to flee?" "Don't worry," some progenitors replied. "The 9 emperors will lead many progenitors into battle. We'll evacuate for now. If they win, we will return." The Heavenly Origin camp was indeed marshalling forces. All 9 emperors would participate, and a large number of progenitors' true bodies were converging. Gathering even those true bodies took over 10 days. Their forms varied, beast-like, celestial, fluid like water or mountains, some humanoid. "This cultivator camp is too arrogant, insisting on invading our territory," the infinite serpent ancestor raged. Historically, the Heavenly Origin camp had been the oppressor. Now the roles were reversed. The 8 lords were staking claims and demanding vast slices of space. Even pacifists were outraged. "They even say the Southern River territory is only the beginning," the giant god emperor fumed. "They want more." "This battle will prove we're still the strongest," the Emberfire ancestor declared. The Heavenly Origin camp intended to show the entire limitless primal space that they remained dominant. Depart, the infinite serpent ancestor, limitless ancestor, annihilation ancestor, Emberfire ancestor, initial, mother of spacetime, giant god emperor, Black Tide ancestor, and primal chaos beast ancestor led 80 selected progenitors into a massive formation. With the mother of spacetime at the helm, they launched toward the 8 lords. All other forces in the limitless primal space watched from afar. "They're coming," the 8 lords waited, eager. This clash would be a demonstration of strength, an opening move in a much larger plan. Thanks to the 2 new alliance masters, How Steel is Tempered and Fangchi Tomato Fried Rice, for their generous donations. Thank you for your support.